The anime begins in a school in Japan on a rainy day, where we meet the protagonist, Kenosato, an ordinary student who goes unnoticed by society. The only thing out of the ordinary in his life is helping animals in danger. Not like in the case of the student council, who are the center of attention. Vice President Kazuki Ryusen and Council President Susan Inakami. The protagonist is a first-class salty. When he was about to go home, his umbrella had been taken by someone else. And since he is an honest person, he decides not to take someone else's. He prefers to wait for it to stop raining, but hours and hours pass and the rain never stops. By a stroke of luck, Inakami appears to tell him that it is too late to still be in the school. And he can't let him leave like this, because the student council would look bad if they let a ordinary student leaves wet. Ryusen tells Usato that he can borrow his spare umbrella. Inakami notices that she already knows him. The protagonist is surprised to see that although they do not address the word in class, Ryusen is able to remember his name. He thinks it must be a very good one. Person and decide to talk more casually and leave formalities aside. Inakami. She hopes that he can also talk to her like that, since that meeting seems like a thing of fate. While Usato feels strange going home with the two most popular in school. He mentions that everyone at school will be envious of him after that, but thinks it out loud and says, apologies to the boys. As they walk back to their homes, Usato is surprised to see. They are more common than I thought. They are only more handsome and talented, but it is nothing of the another world, right? Kazuki is coveted by girls, but boys don't approach him. While Dinukami thought he was someone even more unapproachable, but he ended up being a very happy and fun person. She answers that it is only an ordinary girl, but Kazuki mentions that she shouldn't be taken so lightly. After everything is the one with the best rating. She is also very good at sports and is a very good person. Usato, curious, asks if they are dating together, since according to the rumors at school everyone says they are a couple. They respond that that is not true. They only pass a lot of time together for student council activities. They are aware that everyone, they think that, but the only person who has asked them directly has been him. Use it. Sorry to think it was rude of him, but Inakami expresses that he was praising him. Because at least he doesn't talk behind his back like the rest. In that they continue walking. And Inakami asks Usato what he plans to do once he finishes high school. Although he has not yet thought about what to do with his life, which university he will go to or which banks will assault. Kazuki comments that he also asked him that same question, and Inakami replies that it's just curiosity, since she doesn't know what she wants to do either. All the objectives he sets are met very easily, and it is very difficult for him to be able to set yourself a challenge. Usato watches her and thinks that, although they are not the same, he can understand a little about how it feels. But out of nowhere, as they walk, Kazuki and Nukami begin to hear bells in the distance. Although Usato is unable to hear her, the bells ring louder and louder, but Usato still doesn't hear them. And when he approaches them, a magical portal appears at his feet. And you'd think they'd shit themselves. But on the contrary, Usato mentions that it can be a portal to another world. Kazuki tells him, what the hell are you talking about? But even Inakami herself is excited to think that they could be transported to a magical world with monsters, heroes and magic. Which surprises Usato, seeing that the waifu is interested in things like that. The flash of light takes them away, and Usato wakes up with his companions in a real room, in front of a king and his soldiers. He asks who all these people are, but none of them have any idea. And seeing how Inakami is doing, this one is wonderfully delighted with being summoned to another world. Although Kazuki is another case, demands that they give them an explanation of where they are and why they were taken to that place. And well, you know, it's typical, the king summons them to another world to save them from Demon King. They are the chosen boys, anyway, all very cliché. The king introduces himself as Lloyd Bulgaslinger and gives them the entire explanation. While Usato shatters the perfect image he had of his waifu, seeing that he excited with everything the king says. Lois explains to them that 2 years ago they were attacked by the Demon King. They managed to expel him, but the Demon King was gathering strength, And who knows where they will end up if they receive another attack from this. For that reason they use the forbidden ritual of summoning to bring people from another world to face the Demon King. But Kazuki demands that they return them to their world, because they were taken without their permission and their families are waiting for them on the other side. Unfortunately, the ritual only works to take them to that world and not to return them. Kazuki gets aggressive, but the soldiers stop him in his tracks. And Usato tries to calm him down, or else they will end up turned into skewers. Loic kneels in front of them, and declares that he will find a way to send them back to their world. But he asks you to please help him while he finds a way. All the soldiers bow following the example of their king, and Inokami asks the king why they call them heroes when they know absolutely nothing about they. Luck the king orders his Santera Wilsey to explain to him, and she reveals to him that before being summoned they had to hear some bells, the ritual. It only takes notable people from another world, and if they heard them it is because they are the ones indicated. Unfortunately, Usato does not apply to be there, so the proto ended up there by mistake, being with the wrong people at the wrong time. In a change of scene, they are taken to another room to measure their magical abilities with a ball of crystal. While Kazuki asks Usato if he is okay with everything that is happening, he responds that it would be useless to get angry. Now he just has to find something that do. Kazuki thinks it's kind of impressive the way he's handling it, but Usato tells him that he should rather be impressed by Inokami, who is being very optimistic about the whole situation. When evaluating the waifu's magic, the crystal ball turns yellow, illuminating the whole room. Welsi warns them that he has an affinity for lightning magic, and it contains a lot of mana inside, causing Inokami to become content. Because let's be real, anyone would jump on one leg if they had a magic with that element. On Kazuki's turn, the crystal ball turns white, and Welsi is excited to see that he has an affinity to the magic of light. Inokami tells him that he will be able to throw racial laser and use lightsabers. But Usato tells him that what he is mentioning, it's something very freaky. The waifu responds that she can't stand anything, but that's something he likes. While Usato completely loses the image of perfection he had of his senpai, Welsi tells Kazuki that his magic is too useful for fighting demons, since light destroys evil, which is a very useful power that very few people possess. Now it's Usato's turn, and when evaluating his magic, the sphere turns green, while he thinks that he only wants to be able to help his colleagues. Both he and the boys are enchanted by the emerald color of his magic, but Welsi, on the other hand, has a panicked face. He drags him away to take him to the king, and when he arrives with him, the king asks him how the evaluation was. She tells him that they were both excellent, and the detail is Usato's magical affinity. The king jokes by asking him if he has a magical affinity for darkness, but Welsi tells him that he turned green, causing the king to panic. The protagonist has a very rare and powerful magical affinity, but when they are about to mention it, the king stops her from saying it out loud. They must get Usato out of the castle as soon as possible, and they think to where safe they could send him. The king orders to begin preparations, but Usato asks him if he is someone dangerous, and if there is someone else with the same affinity. The king reveals to him that there is a person, but he can't let her find out that Usato has the same affinity. Then the doors open abruptly, and Rose enters the royal hall, causing panic to everyone present. She wants to know how the summoning ritual went, and if the heroes have already arrived, but the king tried to do everything possible to get rid of it. Rose notices Usato's presence, and asks him if he is a hero, but the king jumps to say that he is not one, and it was only a young man who came to that world by mistake, plus he is a very ordinary boy. And current. Rose asks him for his name, and Usato introduces himself in panic. She reveals to him that she is the captain of the kingdom's rescue team. But with that appearance and grandeur, he seems to be someone who takes lives and not those he saves. Welsi, to get her out of the way, tells you that the heroes are in the evaluation room, and he says goodbye and heads there. The king tells Usato that later they will see what to do with him, but in the meantime they will prepare a bedroom for him to rest. The shit is that he opens his big mouth and asks what kind of magic the color green indicates. provoking Rose to listen. Don't think twice and go back for him. Lloyd orders Usato away as soon as possible from she, and Wellesley uses her magic to get him out of the castle, although it doesn't help, because Rose shows who is the boss in that place. He launches himself at Usato, giving him a blow that takes him out of the bubble, and ends up kidnapping him, declaring to the king that he will make that boy the best user of the healing magic. The king asks him to please return it, because that poor soul in pain. He ended up in that world by mistake. In a change of scene, Wellesley tells the boys that Usato was kidnapped by Rose, although they have no reason to fear, because it's not like they're going to unlive it, or anything like that. The detail: it's that he took it too far. With the suburban rescue team, the crystal ball, he indicated that Usato's magic, it is healing, and the rescue team look for users with that kind of magic, because they are very rare. Rose is a user of this magic, and he wants to train Usato. The problem is that his methods are very orthodox and his subordinates are a special case. On the other hand, Rose explains to Usato what her type of magic is, and that she took him with her for that reason. From that moment on, this will be your home. Rose calls her subordinates, and a very peculiar group, with the appearance of highly dangerous criminals, appear to present themselves. These are Mill, Tong, Gul, Alec and Gonmal. But more than giving him a warm welcome, they are intimidating him. Poor Usato thinks they'll end up using him as an offering for a sacrifice. But Rose kicks them away. He orders them to stop scaring him, and the boys apologize because they just wanted to be friendly, although I don't think they understand much the meaning of that word. These are Rose's subordinates, although none of them are users of healing magic. There are only 2 other users in the rescue group, but they generally spend their time working at outskirts. From now on, she will be in charge of instilling in him the proper use of healing magic. But Usato kindly asks him that he would love to change teachers, because his body is shouting to get away from that woman, although Rose just ignores him and orders him to prepare, because from tomorrow they will begin their training. The boys feel sorry for poor Usato, because his boss will train him personally, and he himself will wish he were in hell rather than with her. In his bed he thinks that he will just have to make an effort, while Rose waits to see the result, to train a user of otherworldly healing magic. The next day, Usato wakes up disappointed, because he hoped it had all been a dream. But seeing the bald guy snoring next to him confirms that he is in another world. A while later, Alec tells him that he has visitors. And when he leaves, he notices that it is his friends, who have a street dress. They were worried, because they found out that they took him by force. It was literally a kidnapping, although Usato calms them down, because he is alive for the moment. But remember that his hellish training begins that day, and he has no idea if he will continue living the next day. And Nakami asks him if he is sure he wants to do that training. And Usato says yes, because he wants to be useful to them. Besides, he has nothing better to do, although if I were you I would be walking through that magical world. Kazuki is surprised to see her determination, while Hinakami motivates him because they also start their training that same day, and they must give their best. They are curious to know what kind of training they will have. And Kazuki thanks Usato because thanks to him he decided he will also give his best in that world. The boys return to the castle, and they take several vegetables that the rescue team gave them, while Usato hopes that Kazuki is okay, because they took him against his will from that world, and he must be having a bad time. Inakami may feel the same way. But nah, this woman is wonderful. Will give his best. But that's when Rose comes out, to let you know that this place is not a prison, and he's free to leave whenever he wants, as long as I'm not training. Poor Usato panics, and thanks you for taking care of him, to which Rose gives him a diary to keep track of his daily training. And what do you think about this? Your training starts after breakfast. And Usato begins to swallow deeply. A while later he begins the infernal training, with whom they gave him psycho-terror. The first day was pretty easy though. He only had to feel the mana inside him to learn to extract it from his body. His first day focused on feeling the mana and reading a history book. At first I didn't know if I could do it, because I didn't know the language of that world. but the people summoned have the translation package included. Rose shows him that Linger's kingdom is right next to the demonic kingdom. For that reason, they are the first target of demons. You have to learn everything that book shows you, since it talks about the kingdoms, the different races and demons of that world. Usato believes that if all training is based on that, it won't be difficult at all. But the poor guy doesn't know what awaits him, little thing. On its second day, it runs all day long. And in the third, he had to run until his legs no longer responded. Rose. It. Scolds for being lazy. And he gives him a healing kick that heals Usato's tired muscles. He sends him running again, and tells him to run until he dies. Because if you die, you have nothing to worry about, because it will resurrect him to force him to run again. On his fourth day, he begins training with the rest of the rescue group. Although Usato is very far from his physical conditions, everyone overtakes it with great ease, while Rose insults him for being a slow shit. Usato thinks he would love to insult her or say something to her, but it is contained, and he decides to write everything he thinks about her in the diary that Rose gave him. Keep running day after day, while at times his magic was blooming. On a rainy day he slips and falls into a puddle, while he thinks that Rose is a heartless woman. In that field the healing magic. But he decides not to use it because he doesn't feel it is necessary. On his seventh day, he begins to receive beatings from Rose, because she is angry at. See that Usato still does not improve as he wants. He grabs him and throws him to continue training, and so they continued for the next few days, until finally Usato understood that he must use healing magic to repair his muscles, and everyone. Tiredness and fatigue you may feel. Thanks to that, his training began to develop better. He is now able to use healing magic at will, and does not get tired no matter how hard he runs. He is only worried that he is only running every day, and he doesn't know if he will be able to make Kosuka Inukami useful. Rose demands more and more of him, and Usato would love to tell her everything, but only write what you think in your notebook. On the 11th day, they added push-ups to their workout, and for their first day, it's already 819. Every time he can't continue, he uses his healing magic to heal his torn muscles, and continue training. To which Rose confesses that her training is done so that she is able to escape from the enemy on the battlefield and also rescue your wounded comrades. The faster you run, the faster you can save your teammates. That day ended without any reprimands, and the 10th day duo was more of the same. Running and more push-ups. But this time he noticed that his body was much lighter. So Rose, as if to squeeze the last drop of suffering out of him, added extra weight to your training. On the 12th and 4th day, Tun stole his lunch when the protagonist neglected to go get water. Usato, angry, throws the glass of water at him, and rushes to beat him for taking his food. But Tun runs away from him, because fights are prohibited for the rescue team. Usato got used to the extra weight quickly, and Rose is aware of that. While Usato thinks that maybe he is being brainwashed. A week later, Kazuki and Nukami came to pay him a visit. But this time they are accompanied by Princess Celia and the army commander, Siglis. They tell you where Usato is. But when they see him, everyone is shocked to see the training he was doing. Well, this poor man is doing push-ups with a concrete block on top of him, and Rose riding on the back. Siglis is enraged when he sees how inhumane Rose's training is. While she scolds Usato for slowing down, Usato replies that he is not complaining about anything. But Rose continues insulting him, to which he jokes, provoking Rose to add another concrete block as a reprimand. Usato uses his healing magic to heal his body and continue doing the push-ups, which excites Rose to see that the rookie does not give up. And it's time to take him out for a walk. Kazuki can't believe that person is actually Usato, but Inukami's mouth waters when he sees those muscles. Training is terrible and Sigils can't stand it. So he confronts Rose for destroying a young man with a promising future, to which Rose orders him to let her go. Because although he is an impressive gentleman, she has her way of doing things. He reveals that Usato will become his right-hand man, being able to endure training like that, while Usato is surprised upon discovering that he wants to make him his right hand. Rose loves that Usato hates losing, and not knowing when to give up makes it even better. He is also able to survive his training, while the poor man discovers that he screwed up. Wanting to show what he was capable of, Rose orders him to go rest so he can spend the day with the rest of the heroes. And Siglis asks Kazuki and Akami to take care of Miss Celia, while he resolves some issues with that Neanderthal. Siglis had orders to take her back to the army, but now he refuses, although Rose replies that that would be impossible. Usato and the boys sit under a tree to rest and catch up. Kazuki tells him that Siglis is the commander of the Linger Kingdom, and he is the best knight in the kingdom, and he is also teaching them fencing. Usato is surprised and asks them about the girl, to which Celia introduces herself as Celia Bulgaslinger. Usato is surprised to discover that she is the king's daughter, and he apologizes for not having treated her with due respect before. But Celia tells him not to worry, and he hopes that you continue speaking to him with the same confidence. The princess gives them a cake, and hope you enjoy it. And while the bellies are filled, Kazuki asks him if he trains that same way every day. Usato responds that that day was a lighter training session, and he asks how theirs is going. To which Kazuki tells him that Sigli is in charge of teaching them Grima, while Welsi uses magic. But both prioritize the health of the heroes above all, not like in the case of Rose, who plans to resurrect him in case he dies. The condemned woman is a savage, but despite all that I can't stop falling in love with her. I see her and I want her to mistreat me. I'm not normal. When Usato is about to take another piece of cake, and Nakami jumps to grope him, she lifts his shirt and is delighted with his muscles. The waifu wants to touch him and the princess covers her eyes, but the Kashinota can't avoid seeing them. Then the subject is changed and Kazuki asks Usato if he doesn't mind. He has done all that training hard. He confesses that it is very hard. At first he just wanted to escape from that place, and although he is still afraid of Rose, he no longer has the need to run away. You start to see everything much more fun and life in that place is really not so bad. Inakami is surprised to see how quickly he adapted. But Usato responds that the two of them will fight as heroes one day, and he wants to do everything possible to support you. Inakami wants him to save her at some point when they are in trouble, and Usato tells her that she will do it, even if she is pretending to be a normal girl. And Celia confirms it. Inakami is anything but a normal girl. At that, Tom tells Usato that he brought him his lunch to make peace. But Usato makes a Yakuza face, and he asks who the hell asked him to bring him lunch. First of all, he never asked her for a favor. But Tom tells him that he is a spiteful cretin. Usato jumps on the attack to get revenge on the bald guy for stealing his food. And Tom takes advantage of the fact that Rose is not there to beat the hell out of him, while the boys feel ashamed. But nothing happens. That chaos became part of Usato's daily life. In that place someone is free, and he acclimatized much faster than them. To which Kazuki, upon seeing it, feels even more motivated to improve his training. The boys leave and Inakami looks at the protagonist and thinks that the three of them were summoned for some reason. At night Usato takes a hot bath. He is happy that his colleagues are well, although Inakami started to scare him. But she was right when she told him that his body has changed a lot. He spends his time healing his muscles over and over again after destroying them in training. Its result is very obvious, but he wonders if he will be fast enough to save the people in the camp. Battle. Not sure if his mental strength matches that of his body. The next day, Rose orders him to hurry because they are going to leave, and the boys mention that the time has come. Rose tells the guard Thomas to open the doors of the kingdom because she wants to show him the world, external to his subordinate. Usato notices that everyone is afraid of Rose, and upon leaving the kingdom, he asks his sensei where he wants to take him. But Rose orders him to shut up and walk. Upon reaching a ravine, he tells them that they are in the forest. That place is called the Darkness of Linger and is famous because it is full of demons. Its mission is to hunt a great grizzly and he is not allowed to return until he succeeds. Usato panics because a blue grizzly turns into a big grizzly after living 100 years. How he expects him to be able to defeat a great grizzly when he only ran around in his training. He didn't even teach him how to fight. But Rose doesn't give a damn, and throws it into the forest. Usato panics, thinking that he will kick the bucket, and that it will be on the news that his death was because of Rose. But he doesn't plan to die so easily, and covers his body with healing magic to cushion the blows, and especially the fall. Upon landing, thank God that you are still alive, and although it annoys him, he has no choice but to comply with the order that Rose gave him. If you want to return to civilization. He observes his surroundings better and panics at the thought of the great grizzly. But try to motivate yourself. He is only a 2-meter bear. It will be easier after the hell they have put him through. Although it is worse than I expected, it is much bigger. And its claws and fangs scare him. But Usato trusts his legs. After his hellish training, a bear is definitely not. Will be able to keep up with him, although the bear is hot on his heels. Decides to face him directly in a one-on-one, because that giant stuffed animal is not. Nothing compared to Rose. But 2 more stuffed animals appear and join the chase. And Usato runs desperately for his life. And while he runs, he hears a waterfall nearby, and ends up jumping, but the bear watches him with fury. A while later, when he got out of the river, he tied up his clothes and counted the rations. He only has emergency rations, a canteen and a knife. And he thinks Rose is a witch. He didn't give her anything to light the fire. Usato doesn't think he can defeat a big grizzly, but hell, think about that later. At least he managed to survive his first day. And while you sleep, protect your body with healing magic. The next day he prepares to complete his mission, and as he advances in the forest, he marks the trees so as not to end up lost. Your first objective is to learn more about your enemy, which involves discovering where the enemy lies. Great Grizzly. As he advances through the forest, he discovers a scratch-marked tree, and becomes alert to hearing something move in the bushes, and thinks it might be the bears, but it ends up being a bunny, or at least a monster with bunny shape. As he comes out of the bushes, he notices that he is hurt, and asks him if he is okay. And the worst thing is that the rabbit answers yes. He uses his magic to heal him, and asks him to be more careful so that he doesn't get hurt again. Then he continues on his way, keeping alert in case the grizzlies appear. But he notices that the rabbit is following him, and tells him to get away, because he is looking for monsters that are very scary, and can be dangerous. But the rabbit ignores him and continues chasing him. To which Usato takes to asking if by any chance they know where the big one is. Grizzly and the rabbit, which I will name Cairo, start running and take him to where the bears are. Note that, as I said in the book, they spend their time in groups and seem to be a family. At the moment he has already identified his whereabouts, and he goes to the river in search of water, although he is worried about having to drink unboiled water. But after trying it, it seems a little strange. Cairo returns to him, and Usato tells him that he came back too quickly. They return to observe the grizzlies again, and upon seeing them better they begin to think that they are actually pretty cute, and Cairo is too. On his 4th day, in Linger Forest, he is attacked by a stomachache, and wonders if it was by the water. Not even healing magic is healing him right away, quite possibly he ended up poisoned. And think about what you can do to solve it. But then Cairo arrives with him to give him some love. On the 5th day, Shiro takes him to a pond of water, which he can drink. It is much more crystalline than the one from the river, and it has much better flavor. Usato thanks Shiro. But when he sees him, he notices that he is worried. He runs away and climbs a tree, and Usato goes after him. While wondering if it is some other monster, Shiro looks very scared. And Usato wonders what can put him in that state, when not even grizzlies scare him. He begins to hear noises in the forest, and a large snake walks through the trees. Usato panics when he sees her, because there were no records of her in the book he read. And that thing gives off a strong desire for blood. Decide to stay away from it. And 4 days later he continues watching the grizzlies. Still nothing has been decided to attack them. Just looking at them makes you feel very good. But he can't return until he defeats that great grizzly. He decides to do it, but the next day. And the next day it starts to rain. And Shiro tries to stop him because he doesn't want him to go. Usato calms him down and tells him it's okay. But when it stops raining, he will go fight that big grizzly. And once the sky clears, Usato sets off on his way, and tells Shiro that he will not be able to stop him, because he needs to defeat that bear to be able to get out of the forest. Shiro becomes sad, and when he reaches the den of the grizzlies, prepares his knife, and Shiro runs away, but Usato, upon entering, surprise. Upon seeing the horrible scene, the grizzlies had been massacred, and with fury and helplessness, he thinks that Rose will kill him by allowing himself to steal the prey. Upon seeing the bodies better, he notices that those wounds were possibly made by the giant snake. What bothers him the most is that he didn't kill them to eat them, he killed them for the pure pleasure of killing. In this he observes that the bear little boy comes out of some rubble and runs towards his mother's body. Usato hates losing, that's why. Hates losing to Rose. He hates the fact that his prey was stolen and his decision was made in vain. But what he hates most is seeing that heartbreaking scene. Angry, he tells the little boy that he will avenge the death of his family and goes in search of the snake. While on the other hand, at the rescue team's house, Kazuki and Inakami are going to visit Usato, but they warn that he has been training in the forest for 10 days. The boys worry because it takes a long time away, but Tom and Alex act stupid, because who knows, she's the boss. They and Rose don't know anything about what's going on. With no other options, the boys, they return to the castle, and on the way back, Inakami tells Kazuki that he worries too much. When it comes to Usato, Kazuki asks him if he isn't anymore, but Inakami tells him that that's not it. But if it's Rose's order, surely Usato is fine. He also trusts the Usato's strength and is sure that he will return safely, while Usato for his part begins to prepare for the snake hunt. He asks Shiro to take him to the snake, or at least to show him the way and then to leave so that he is not in danger, and Shiro begins to guide him, having to cross several obstacles until he reaches his lair. But they are surprised, seeing that the puppy was facing the snake, even though it was very dangerous. When Usato sees her, he feels scared, but nothing scares him more than Rose, and he starts attacking her. Rose is definitely a tremendous motivation. Oh, my perfect woman. Usato takes advantage of the fact that she is distracted to attack her, but in the blink of an eye, the snake almost eats him, although Usato manages to destroy one of his eyes. But he is hit by the tail of the snake, yet it rises like new. Thanks to its healing magic, prioritize attacking the right. Now that she is blinded, and dodges his attacks, but the snake creates a smoke screen with his tail, and catches Usato's arm. She had tricked him into attacking her blind spot, and he ended up falling in his trap. But inside his mouth is the hand with the knife. Usato drills his head, and manages to free himself, but is affected by the snake's venom, and mentions that it is something unfair. That with that size it also has poison, while the snake observes it as if, "I'm going to eat you." But Usato learned to heal himself from poisoning thanks to the pain of stomach, charges again at the snake, but it attacks him with its tail. Luckily the little grizzly stops her, and Usato seeing him tells her that he will take care of the rest. He climbs on top of the snake, and with one blow he destroys its skull, causing the snake to fall, and ends it by sticking the spear into his head. The snake wriggles but eventually falls. Defeated, the grizzly approaches Usato and he gets nervous. But then you notice him sniffing it, and he is grateful for your help. He would love to heal the puppy's wounds, but currently, he is using all his mana to be able to neutralize the poison inside his body and can't even stand up. But, at that point the snake rises again. Usato remains shocked and tries desperately to get up. The bear tries to help him, but Usato yells at him, "Let him flee." However, this one doesn't plan to leave him alone, and the snake attacks him while Usato. He thinks about Kazuki, Inakami, and Rose, and then remembers that he is going through all that for Rose's fault, and begins to insult her. But in the blink of an eye he makes a masterful entry. Superhero's super violent mommy. "Oh seriously Rose, mistreat me." With one kick, he plants the snake in the ground, and complains because the condemned one could have died. Just not messing around so much, while Usato throws himself on the ground and asks him what does in that place, to which Rose tells him that that little guy informed him of what was happening. He confesses that his name is Kukuru, and that he is his pet, and that he asked him to take care of him. Usato tells him that that rabbit seemed injured, but in reality it was a theater put on by Kukuru. Usato can't believe it, the damned rabbit put on a stunt to gain his trust. Rose reveals that she was always nearby, and prepared in case he ever needed her, would intervene. His plan was to intervene in the slightest, but he didn't expect that thing to appear. Usato asks her if she knows that monster, and Rose reveals that it is a monster created by the army of the Dark Lord, and in the last invasion of the kingdom, Sigless failed to kill him. It is clear that he fled towards the forest, but I did not expect him to finish off the great grizzly either. Because in reality those bears are so strong that not even an elite unit can with them, and the worst thing is that he sent a rookie like him to fight them. Although Rose's goal was not for him to defeat him, she just wanted him to gain experience from fighting against a strong opponent. However, Usato turned out to be more interesting than I thought, as he saw the fight he had against the snake. Usato complains because he almost sent him to the other world, and the little bear, whom I will name Blue's name, stands in front of him to defend him. Rose notices that the cub took a liking to her, and Usato thinks that the assassin was orphaned and now he will be alone. He begins to caress him, and Rose, upon seeing him, tells him that he looks a lot like her. He orders the bear to carry Usato because from that moment on they will live with them. Usato asks if he's sure, but Blue agrees with the idea, and Rose suddenly carries them both like it was nothing. But before leaving, Rose asks him how he called her when he thought that would die. And now you can be sure that you will not sleep at all that night. But at least he passed his test and with registration. Rose tells him that he has proven his worth, and even if he doesn't master the basics, he has what it takes to be at your side on the battlefield. He is able to withstand pain, has physical abilities, and also has a strong mind. The other two healers in the rescue group did not earn that distinction, so it may be feel proud. He mentions that they might survive, and Usato asks what he means, to which Rose reveals that the Dark Lord's army will attack soon. On the other hand, the Dark Lord asks the third commander of his army, Amelia Verdrit, how are the preparations for the invasion of Linger's kingdom going? And she informs you that your units are prepared for battle and will soon begin to advance. Usato can't believe that war is around the corner, and Rose warns him that he will be with her at the front healing the wounded because they will be at the forefront. Although Usato asks him why he will be at the forefront, and what is happening with Tom and the rest. Also, what about the other two healers? Although Rose explains that those two, they have other roles to play. Everyone does their own thing, but the real problem is that Usato doesn't feels qualified to be at your side. He cannot do the same as her, and already Rose is a sensual monster. But she reassures him by telling him that they still have something left of time. The detail is that in that time he will have to harden himself, and Usato wonders if he will be able to do it. Meanwhile, in the demon realm, the Dark Lord warns Amelia that will be in charge of leading the troops. Despite their efforts, Linger's kingdom has been repelling them on other occasions, which is why he tells him not to risk his life, but he does hope that strives in battle, to which Amelia promises to give her best, and the Dark Lord orders him to leave. Leaving the royal hall, the demon Dr. Hiraluk taunts Amelia, because despite being the third commander of the Dark Lord, she gets nervous when facing him. Hiraluk asks him to stop calling her that, and tells him that his research has made a lot of progress. His projects in creating new demonic monsters has advanced enormously, and asks him if he wants to see him. Amelia looks at him very seriously and accompanies him to his laboratory, where Hiraluk shows him the prototype demonic monster number 72. With much more powerful venom and larger fangs, Valjanak. Amelia responds that it has the same name as prototype 71, which ended up being lost when they attacked Linger the last time. Although Hiraluk confesses that it was actually Valjanak from that time, he fled when the knight Siglis wounded him. But this new model is much stronger than the previous one. And Amelia hopes she's right, because there are people who will give them a lot more trouble than Siglis. Hiraluk asks him if he means the kidnappers, and tells him that he heard rumors that they remain on the battlefield but do not fight. They are only responsible for carrying the wounded to minimize casualties among their ranks. When they least expect it, they take the wounded and heal them on the battlefield. But the one who worries him the most is the boss of these, who in the middle of the battlefield, heals others while being a first-class warrior. He mentions that this woman has a deep hatred towards the Dark Lord, and declares that one day he will get rid of it. Although Hiruluk reminds her that since she is now a commander, she will not be able to fight personally. Although Amelia reveals that she will send the Black Knight instead, the immortal wizard of darkness. On the other hand, Usato feels great because he can finally sleep in a decent bed. I even miss Tong's snoring. But later he goes in search of Blue to give her breakfast. And seeing how he is eating the fruit with pleasure, he wants to eat one. Although Blue kicks him and takes the fruit. Note that Kururu is also found, and tells him that he is a damn traitor. And he will never forget that he played with his heart. Although Kururu uses her charms to convince him, Kenosato tries to resist his cuteness. But after a few caresses her charms fall. And he also gives him a fruit. The rabbit got his way. And Blue signals to him that he's cute too. Usato calls the bear by the name Bluerin, but I will continue to call him Blue. Rose asks him if he named the bear that, and Usato tells her that he mixed up Blue's name and Grizzly to make that name. But when he gives him another apple, Blue takes a bite. Rose tells him that she already informed the king about the bear, and now they have permission for it to be the property of the team rescue. And he tells Blue that he can stay with them now, but from now on he will have to earn his daily bread. The poor bear panics, and the damned Rose laughs evilly. Usato asks what she wants the bear to do, and Rose forces him to pick it up and run with it on the road back. They will do a simulation, and you must imagine that the bear is someone you must rescue. He makes him run with the bear on him, but Usato thinks he's just carrying more weight. If you manage your mana well, you can overcome it. But Rose yells that the soldier is dying and that he has to hurry. On top of that, the boys act as obstacles, as if they were on a battlefield. To which Usato asks what the hell they are doing, and they remind him that they are in a field of battle. The enemy will always try to get you, and you better stay focused on saving people. Usato has already been running for an hour and avoiding all the crazy people who cross his path. Alec throws his stinky balls at him, while the dwarf, after 3 hours of running, throws one at him. Log avalanche. Already at 4 hours, Usato begins to look much more tired, and Kururu crosses his path. While Usato thinks it's also a trap, and better avoids it. As he runs, he begins to feel much more tired, until he can't take it anymore, and he runs out of energy. He thought he could last half a day more, but Rose warns him that that is his resistance in a battlefield. Nerves, fear and impatience consume people's energy. For that reason, sold out earlier than normal. You have to get used to it, and acquire the mental strength necessary to not let yourself be overcome by fear. Use your healing magic to ease your mind. And tells him that after recovering his magic, he has to spend the afternoon running around the city. Usato asks if he should hold Blue, and Rose says, obviously baby, that's the idea. Upon recovering, Usato begins to run throughout the city, while the citizens are surprised to see how he runs with such a dangerous creature on his back. Although Usato already expected something like that. After all, although Blue is docile, he is still a monster. But the citizens, seeing that Usato is wearing the rescue team uniform, they feel much calmer and mention that they had been scared in vain. The detail is that Blue sniffs something delicious and tells Usato that he wants to eat fruit. Usato stops to look at them, and the old woman asks him if he would like any. Although sad, he answers that he has no money. He is curious and wants to know what that fruit is called. And the old lady answers that they are called piffles and it is a specialty of the kingdom. Although Usato also asks him why, despite carrying a monster on his back, the citizens continue so calm, but the old woman reveals that it is because of her uniform. Thanks to him, they know that he belongs to the rescue team. And those crazy people are scary as they run through the city. And now nothing surprises them anymore. And after seeing those psychopathic faces, nothing could scare them anymore. Usato thanks him for the information and tells him that next time he will buy him some fruit. Although the old lady, now that they know each other, invites him to a. Usato continues on his way, while a little girl asks the old woman if that boy belongs to the rescue team. The old lady calls her by the name Amako, and she answers yes, while the girl stares at Usato. He takes advantage of the fact that he is near the castle to go visit Kazuki and Nukami, but in that case a blonde watches him and tries to stop him, and I say try because he doesn't run at all, and he's already drowning. You could say that this is me, although Usato finally notices his presence and tells him. He asks if he's okay, but the poor guy is dying. He takes him somewhere else to heal him, and asks him why he was calling him. And the blonde answers that he just wanted to say hello to the rookie on his team. So this is also a member of the rescue team. And her name is Orga Fleur, and she is one of the 2 healers on the team. Usato fills him in, and Orga replies that he was aware that they had a new member on the team. But he didn't know that he had been summoned along with the heroes. Usato tells him that since he spends all his time training, he doesn't even remember. While Orga can't believe he's able to keep up with Captain Rose. He and his sister failed to do it, and he tells her that she is 5 years younger than him. And they have a clinic in the city. They use their magic to heal the citizens. Although Usato finds it strange that he fainted while trying to heal himself. But Orga confesses that he is not very good at healing himself. There are healers of all kinds. But he and his sister are also part of the rescue team. They work with Rose and tend to the wounded when needed. Usato remembers that that's why Rose told him that he would be with her in the vanguard. She asks him what he does on the battlefield, and he tells her that Tom and the rest of them, the boys, take the wounded soldiers to the rear, and there they are in charge of healing them. They are more like support members, and stay safe in the rear, while the rest. Yes, you risk your life for the team. Usato tells him that Rose asked him to join her in the vanguard, but he doesn't know if he'll be up to the task. To which Orga mentions that those who are most in danger on the battlefield are the soldiers and the heroes, to which Usato thinks of Kazuki Inukami. He mentions that Rose would not choose someone to accompany her on the battlefield, unless you completely trust him, and then he tells you that you must return to the clinic, or his sister is going to scold him. Before leaving, he asks Usato not to hate Rose, since she is not a bad person. She just doesn't know how to treat people. But Usato tells her that he doesn't hate her, although he does have a few complaints about it. After that he says goodbye, and continues with his training, while Orga is happy, knowing that Rose finally got someone to be at her side on the battlefield. But then his sister comes to scold him for wasting his time. He tells him that he can't leave him alone, or he may end up dying, while Orga asks him not to see him as if he were someone weak. She tells him that she just met someone very interesting, and that she will soon meet him too. While Usato arrives at the castle entrance, and asks the guard if he can by any chance let Blue through. The guard, upon seeing him, recognizes that it is Usato, and authorizes him to enter with everything and the bear, stuffed animal, which surprises Usato, and he asks if they really let monsters into the castle. But the guard confesses that it is because Captain Rose vouches for him, so there is no problem. Usato notices that everyone trusts Rose a lot. And as he walks through the castle, watch how soldiers do their training. But then he looks at Inukami, and notices that she is very skilled with the sword. When he sees him he jumps out to greet him, and he asks what that furry thing is behind him. To which Usato introduces him, and tells him about his training in the demon forest. Although then he notices that Inukami is not stopping him at all. What he's telling you. Because she is gawking at Blue, he asks if he can pet him, and Usato answers that there is no problem. And also in the case of biting it, he just has to heal her, but that doesn't calm her down much, although Inukami. She is confident, because since she is the heroine, the animals surely adore her, although Blue gives her a zappy. Usato tells him that he is a little shy, and he doesn't have to be depressed about it, but it's quite the opposite. This one is delighted with the feel of her little paws. He recommends calling him by his name, to see if that's the case. She stops him, but when she tries, Blue ends up biting her, or well, in the end he ends up biting both of them, so they stop screwing it up. Inukami feels like he hasn't seen him in years, and Usato when he sees his hands he worries when he sees them mistreated, but it is because Inakami spends his time practicing. A lot. But Usato, like a gentleman, heals his wounds and tells him that he must treat them. The waifu blushes and asks him if he went to see her, but Usato pulls her down. The cloud when he answers that he only went to visit the two of them, and the waifu answers him that his honesty is his only flaw. He reveals that Kazuki is not available for the moment, because he left the kingdom with Siglis to fight against some monsters in order to gain experience, while Kazuki asks Siglis if the army of the Demon King will attack them soon, while he reveals that he is sure that this time he will. They will attack with a much more powerful army than the previous one, but this time they have the support of the heroes and the morale of the soldiers are very high by having them. However, Kazuki, no. He looks very convinced. Then they are surrounded by a group of red wolves and they prepare for the combat, while Usato hopes that he is fine. And Inakami tells him that when Kazuki returns it's her turn to go gain some experience. However, Usato is sure that he will have a great time out there, although Inakami gets angry and asks him to worry too for her. After a while he says goodbye and continues with his training, while Inakami watches. That now Usato speaks to him with much more confidence, and he doesn't dislike it at all. Kazuki went out to train and Inakami is trying very hard, all because the war is getting closer, and if they go to the war, he wants to be prepared to help them. He doesn't want to hide while his friends are in danger. In the other world I could only admire those who were capable to do things that he doesn't, but he is no longer that same person. At night he leaves Blue to rest. And as he heads home, Rose asks him how his training was, and if he's gotten used to it. The protagonist tells him that he feels much better, but prefers to continue training a little more. And when Rose is about to leave, Usato stops her and tells her that she asked him to toughen up. Survived. He almost faced the snake in the forest, which is why he was terrified when he heard it talk about the Demon King's army. I didn't want to have to step on the battlefield. But on that day he felt something much stronger than fear. He is aware that he cannot fight. And he can't kill anyone either. But he can save Kazuki, Inakami, and anyone who needs your help, because he is also part of the rescue team. Rose is happy to hear him say that, and tells him that they will go together to save people on the battlefield. Their ideals are to steal from enemy to the wounded that they want to finish off, and make those who are going to die live. Can't lose those ideals, because that's how the rescue team should be. Usato from that moment began to feel truly part of the team, and while they were talking outside, the others gossipers watched them from within, and the next day, as if not to lose the habit, wakes him up early by throwing a heavy bag on top of him, because he received a message from the king and wants to get going, because he wants me to accompany the heroine Inakami to train. As they walk to the capital, Usato asks Rose why she should go to training with Inakami, when Kazuki went with Commander Siglis and the knights, although Rose reveals that they asked her for the same thing with Kazuki. But she refused, because she was just returning from the forest, although the king this time asked him personally during the night, and couldn't refuse a second time. He tells you that he will act as a healer in the event that an emergency arises, so you can relax for 2 or 3 days, as long as I'm with Inakami. Upon meeting the group, they are surprised to see him, because I didn't expect him to join his team. And also, he also took Blue. She thinks she took him so he could get along with her, although Usato confesses that he had no choice but to take him, because he couldn't get rid of it. Inakami replies that he is insensitive, but he takes advantage and introduces him to his expedition companions. The redhead is Haruki and he is a gentleman, while the one who looks like a nun is Korin and her class is mage. Usato introduces himself to everyone and hopes they can get along, although when he gives more details to Haruki, he asks him if they don't know each other before, and he answers yes, because he usually works at the castle door. Rose warns Inakami that Usato's magic is not omnipotent. It is capable of curing poison and healing wounds, but he is not able to revive the dead. In other words, he warns them that they should not overestimate Usato's healing power. Inakami understands his words. You have nothing to worry about though, because after all, he trained alongside Siglis. He has nothing to say to Usato. while he looks at her a little uncomfortable, which makes Rose angry. I asked him if he wanted me to give him any advice, although Usato responds that it is very good, and Rose grabs and returns to her base. Inakami tells him that his mentor is someone incredible. Usato asks him in what sense, but Inakami doesn't tell him anything and they set off. On the other hand, Kazuki trains in the castle, although Princess Celia asks him what he thinks he is doing. The day before he returned from a hard training, and that day he is returning to training again. This Celia like she wants to make Kazuki heir. Celia feels worried when she sees that she is demanding too much of herself, but Kazuki reassures her, because she is in perfect conditions. Celia, sad, tells him that she is fine, and before leaving, she asks him to take good care of himself. For his part, Inakami tells Usato that Kazuki returned very exhausted from his training, but he was happy to have gained a lot of combat experience. After having defeated many monsters on the plains near the darkness of Linger, Inakami warns him that that forest is where they are going, while Usato remembers everything, who lived there, and wonders if Blue will feel homesick when he returns. Blue lies fast asleep, and this psycho wants to take advantage of the opportunity to caress him, although Usato puts him a slap, but the condemned woman does not give. Defeated, she asks him what the hell it happens to her, but she can say the same thing to her, and Nakami responds that he hit his hand. Maybe he has some new fetish, but Usato goes crazy and responds, who doesn't know what he's talking about in that. Blue wakes up, and Usato asks him to walk on his own, although he walks more like a drunk, and Nakami. She tells him that she will take him, and asks him to get on his back, and Usato tries to stop the misfortune that is about to happen, but he fails to avoid it, and Inakami ends up being crushed by Blue for walking with your intensity. He got hurt before fighting, and apologizes for using Usato's magic so soon, while as Blue and Corrin advance, they feel the presence of several creatures ahead. Haruki asks them, keep behind him, but the presences are not monsters, but turn out to be bandits, who had prepared an ambush for them. A large group of bandits cross their path, and they order them to hand over everything they have of value, while Usato innocently thinks if they are thinking of stealing those Donavis. They are not scary at all. Even Inakami, instead of being scared, is excited to see that they are real bandits. Because I had never seen any, and they are just as I imagined them. However, the group of bandits, seeing that the boys have a blue grizzly with them, they get excited, but the leader warns them that he is just a puppy and they have nothing to worry about. The bandits mention that they plan to make a coat with the bear, and that angers Usato, but Inakami is the first to attack them. Usato is glad that he didn't killed with his attack, while these two are surprised to see his strength. He has a perfect control of her magic, and Usato motivates her to destroy it without holding back. Since in the worst case, he will be in charge of healing her, the bandits try to attack her all together, since she will not be able to use her magic so close. But Usato enters the Pokemon fantasy and orders Inakami to use Thunder Shock, although she asks him to stop saying it that way. Usato is excited to see that the waifu looks like a human electric eel, although Inakami tells him to stop or he's going to get angry. As they confront each other, Cory detects other presences that are approaching very quickly, and upon seeing around, the group is attacked by a flock of fall wars. Haruki wonders what they do in that place, when those monsters live in the depths of the forest. Blue blocks the attack of several of these, and Inakami gets rid of one. However, when it is almost hit by another, Usato acts as a shield and they are sent flying. They end up separating from the group due to the impact. Usato protects Inakami with his body, and uses his magic to heal both of their wounds. Usato, upon seeing the surroundings, quickly locates himself, and remember that ahead there is a waterfall. He orders Inakami to take a breath, and prepare for the fall. And a while later Inakami tries to wake him up, and loads him to take him to a safe place. She tells him that she is a woman who always pays her debts. But Usato tells him that he is fine, and he warns him that what he said is something shameful. Inakami feels embarrassed and pushes him, besides being surprised to see how quickly he recovered, but Usato confesses that only was resting after having taken it out of the water. In reality, the condemned man was sleeping. But not because of the fall. He asks him to let his wound heal and removes the scar from his face. And Nakami is sorry for having ended up in that situation, although Usato replies that he shouldn't worry. On the contrary, he is happy that both of them are together. But I didn't expect to return to that place. He reveals that that was where his teacher sent him to train, and there are many worse monsters than the Fall Wars. When they check their belongings, they notice that they don't have any food, and Inakami, he asks if the best thing would be to get out of that forest as soon as possible. However, Usato warns him. It's already getting dark, and it seems like there will be bad weather, so the ideal thing would be to look for a place to take refuge, and leave the next day. Inakami asks him if he knows any safe place, and Usato answers that when he was there, he slept for 3 days in the trees. Although Inakami had never ridden one. She always wanted it, but they never let her. Usato, he thinks that Inakami must be the spoiled daughter of a rich family, and after observing better their surroundings, notices a cave and warns them that they can stay dry there, and it is also more sure to wander through the forest. He recommends that you change your clothes to avoid catching a cold, and when is about to go change, he warns Usato not to dare look, although Usato didn't even have the slightest intention of seeing it. A while later, Inakami uses his magic to electrocute the fish from the river, and Usato is surprised to see that they already have dinner for the night. The condemned man puts it, do all the tasks. Then he makes him use his magic to light the fire, and he feels happy. Because the last time he sucked quite cold because he didn't know how to light the fire the old-fashioned way. Use fire to dry his clothes and cook the fish, as well as keep warm, but Inakami goes to a corner and Usato apologizes because he didn't mean to make her uncomfortable. Although he is stupid, takes a look at his muscles. He mentions that he became much sexier, but Usato asks him, what did she say? Although she replies that she didn't say anything. At that point he sees red eyes in a cave, but they only turned out to be a group of monkeys. Usato warns him that it is venom monkeys, and he only read about them, but he had never seen one. Warns you that they are not aggressive, but you don't have to touch them, because they are poisonous. Usato asks him what the hell believe it does. He told her that they are poisonous, but Inakami ignores him because she is trapped in its cuteness, although the monkey bites it to make it serious. Inakami falls unconscious. Usato runs to heal her. While at the castle, Kazuki is informed about the disappearance of Inakami and Usato. They were notified through Korin's relative. The king wasn't sure if he should tell him, because he didn't want to worry him, but his daughter Celia did not want anything to be hidden from her. Kazuki asks if they have already sent a search party, although the king tells him that they are gathering a group, but they will leave the next day. To which Kazuki gets angry, because by the next day it will be too late. He mobilizes to go rescue them on his own. But Rose stands in his way and warns him that the heroines Suzun and Usato, they are together, and if so nothing will happen. Because Usato is his subordinate, and he won't die just like that, as long as Usato is fine. Heroine will be too. While they finish eating the fish and Usato thanks Inakami, because surviving with her is like cheating. Inakami gets upset because he is taking him as if he were a survival tool. But Usato responds that it is not as he paints it, he is just very grateful. Seeing that Inakami is tired, he suggests sleeping in shifts, and tells her to do it first, but the waifu refuses. Because he has used a lot of his magic to heal her. And the best thing is that he rests first. While he sleeps it starts to rain, and Inakami asks him if he really fell asleep. But the protagonist answers that not yet. He asks what's wrong, and Inakami asks him what he thinks about being summoned into that world. Usato tells him in what sense. And the waifu asks him if he doesn't miss his home in the real world. The proto tells him that it is a complicated question. Because he wants to return but at the same time he doesn't want to. For his part, Inakami confesses that he does not want to return to his world. And after a while he asks if he doesn't plan to ask him why. To which Usato tells him that if he wants me to ask him, and she says yes. Although he mentions that he can imagine why he doesn't want to go back. First of all, he likes that world a lot. More than the world they come from. And Inakami reveals that he has no attachment to his old world. He wants to forget about his old self, his family, his friends. And he just wants to stay in that world. Always dreamed of something like that. In an opportunity to free herself from the shackles that restricted her. In that world there is nothing that ties her. And finally he has the freedom he wanted so much. Usato doesn't think it's wrong for him to think that way. And Inakami is surprised because he thought he would be disappointed to hear her say that. But he always felt the same. He always wanted to change his boring life and change himself. So you feel like you're in the same boat. When they arrived in that world, she only cared about getting in the way of Kazuki and her. That's why he always worked hard in his training. But now he belongs to the rescue group, and he thinks, protect Kazuki, her and everyone in the kingdom. He asks her what she wants, and she confesses that she wants to be a hero and protect that place. If so, then they will save the people of Linger Kingdom together, because their old world does not has importance. They will protect the place where they feel themselves. And Inakami feels that Usato is now someone much more trustworthy. And he responds that now she is much more human than before. Because in his world he was like an unattainable flower. While Inakami always thought that Usato was someone very cold. But she confesses that she prefers that they be good friends than that he admires her like he did before. Usato gets sad and very nervous. And to avoid discomfort he tells her that he is going to sleep, while the waifu asks him if he turned red. He is glad that they can now talk with such confidence, and the next day these two leave, return with the rest of its members. As they advance they hear various noises around the bushes, and prepare for any possible enemy. But Blue ends up appearing from the bushes, and jumps on Usato. Aruki has a face of endurance from another world, and is glad that they are both well. After being healed by Usato, he tells them that Blue ran while they were searching for him. Forest. He assumed that he had found his scent, and that's why he chased him. And Inakami congratulates Blue for doing an excellent job, but it continues sniffing until it reaches its old home. Kenosato tells them that that was where Blue lived. But a huge snake killed his parents. Inakami feels sorry for him. After a while Blue returns to them. And the boys notice that Blue decided to return to them. And so this group resumes its path to the city. Upon arriving at the kingdom, the king is happy because they are well. And Inakami apologizes for worrying him. Although the king is the one who apologizes for having put them in a serious bind. In addition, they also involved Usato. Although he responds that he is already used to situations like that. Then he realizes that he almost screwed up and tries to accommodate her. Telling him that in his old job he also explored the forests. The king asks him how his training in the rescue team is going. But Usato has no idea how to respond to that. More shitty than ever, he answers that he is doing great. And the king is happy to hear him say that. While Rose looks at him like a little puppy who did a good job. The poor guy thinks that smile is one of satisfaction. And I'm sure Rose brainwashed him without him knowing. The king declares that Inakami will resume his field training at another time. And asks him to rest momentarily. And one of the assistants tells him that they can leave now. But Rose and Siglis must stay in the room with the king. Usato looks at them strangely. And as he leaves the royal room, Inakami asks him what worries him. Usato responds that he only wonders why the captain and Commander Siglis stayed. Since the minister seemed very serious. Inakami also had the same expression. He thinks that maybe they will be kicked out. Although Inakami dismisses that idea. At that, Kazuki runs after him and yells for him to wait for them, while Celia runs after him. He asks them why they are doing so calmly after being attacked by monsters. They were very worried, and Celia reveals that Kazuki was about to leave the castle to go to look for them. He tells Inakami that it is very reckless of him. Although Usato tells her that she is more reckless by letting herself be bitten by a monkey. When I had already warned him. Kazuki asks him which monkey he is referring to. And when he is about to tell him, Inakami covers his mouth so he doesn't tell him anything. A while later, Kazuki tells him that when he was about to go to the forest, Rose ordered him to calm down. Because as long as Usato was alive, they would both be fine. And I knew I wouldn't die easily. After all, he is his disciple. Usato thinks he said it because the forest difficulty was on easy mode. compared to his last time. Rose trusts him completely, while Usato thinks that Kazuki is someone very pure and innocent, as he blindly trusts Rose's words and tells him that, keep that innocence. The Ainokami will be dirty, although Kazuki doesn't understand a damn of what he wants to tell you. Ainokami mentions that he is implying that he considers her a stain. Celia observes him in detail, and a while later Kazuki says goodbye to Usato. By Ainokami, Celia mentions that they have a very nice relationship, and Kazuki feels that now they are even more friends than before, although Celia refers to her relationship with him. When he is by your side, he gives off a lot of happiness, and he answers that it is because they come from the same world, although this. He gets sad and asks if there is a place in his heart for her. Inokami calls her Celia simply, but he continues calling the princess. Then she feels sorry and apologizes for being so sincere. What this princess wants is to be defiled by Kazuki, but he apologizes and tells her that from that moment on he will start calling her only by her name. In that we see that the king addresses Rose and Siglis to warn them that after interrogating to the bandits who attacked Usato and the rest, they said that when they crossed the meadow they saw many fewer monsters than usual. They found it strange, but then they were attacked by some falvers. If what the bandits say is true, the prairie monsters may have fled from something terrible that is coming towards them. It may be the army of the Dark Lord, and it seems that they finally decided to act. The detail is that this time they are not going to underestimate them like the time before, and they will try to conquer the kingdom without holding back. The king orders Siglis to activate all the units he can so that they are prepared for anything, and Siglis will withdraws to act as soon as possible, while Sergio also mobilizes to inform the rest of ministers, then asks Rose to go confirm what the army is up to. Of the Dark Lord, it is not something that is related to his work, but there is no one better than her to carry out that task. Rose asks him to be calm, after all she is the one fastest in the kingdom, but before leaving the king makes another request and asks if he didn't want to lead the troops again, although Rose refuses, because he is not so noble. As the king considers her, she is the only healer to reach this high, and asks her why she belittles herself that way, but she responds that she doesn't belittle herself to nothing. However, despite having accepted the death of his men, he is aware that he cannot heal the dead. The scar on his right eye does not allow him to forget what happened. Lloyd tells her that it wasn't her fault, but Rose tells him that it's her fault. Entirely blame, since their arrogance led them to death. He realized that no matter how much talent and capabilities that someone has, if they die it's over. That scar is their punishment, and never will be able to forget his sin. That is why he created the rescue team, because he wanted a unity to save lives instead of fighting. The king acknowledges that his team saved many soldiers 2 years ago, but it no longer met its objective. However, Rose reveals that there is another reason why she created the rescue team. I wanted a subordinate who wouldn't die. The king is shocked to hear her, because that is something humanly impossible. Although she confesses that that is what training is for. Healing magic, the ability to overcome human limits, plus the mental strength to endure it. He has been looking for someone who meets all three conditions for a long time. And that is Usato, your ideal candidate. Has a survival instinct, adaptability, and will to live. In short, the guy hates to lose. In other words, he lets himself be carried away by circumstances. And the best thing is that no matter what happens, he doesn't stop challenging her. Can't be beaten. And it's just like the brat that died in your arms. That's why he decided to make him his ideal healer, although he later apologizes for talking too much. And he warns him that he will continue patrolling. At night, Usato asks Alec what that envelope with his name on the table is, and he answers that the boss left him while he fed Blue. When he opens it and reads the letter, he observes that they are not going to train the next day, but he must go deliver that letter. Letter to designated address. Usato asks Alec where Rose is, but he has no idea. He only knows that she told him that she wasn't going to dinner. On the other hand, we see that the Dark Lord's army begins to mobilize. The Black Knight feels bored, and Amelia asks him what's wrong. The Black Knight mentions that he sees her very excited and finds everything very boring. Although she is angry, she tells him that he better respect his superior. However, the Black Knight confesses that in the Second Army they do not care about the ranges. Amelia responds that he is now her subordinate and has to follow her orders. To which he replies that it is fine and leaves, but not before asking him to let him know when they have finished the bridge. Heidi Luke notes that she is having a hard time keeping it under control, and Amelia responds that it is best not to make fun of her. Although he responds that he only wanted to see how the progress of the bridge was going. They're almost done, and after that they will launch their invasion of Linger's kingdom. But at that moment they tell him that there is someone on the other side of the bridge. However, Amelia is not worried, because even if I am an explorer, it will be too late by the time I deliver the information. However, with a single attack, the bridge collapses. Amelia wonders what the hell that is, and Hyrule mentions that it seems that a log was thrown from the other side of the river. Amelia can't believe it, but upon closer inspection, he notices that it is none other than Rose. Angry, she wants to go after her, while Rose runs away because she achieved her goal. By destroying the bridge, he got a few more days. The next day, Usato heads to the address marked on the map. It's a very detailed map, and as he walks through the streets, the citizens notice that he is someone from the team rescue. Usato feels like he is attracting a lot of attention, even though he is not with Blue that day, although he later realizes that the citizens are watching him. Strange to see him walking calmly down the street. When passing by the fruit shop, he greets the old woman, and she tells him that she has just received the fruit that Blue likes so much. Usato answers that he will take some, although it will be later, because first he must go somewhere else. Then we see that the girl from before is watching him hidden behind some curtains. And then when you get to the address and enter, he is received by Orga's little sister. He realizes that this is the new member of the rescue team. And when Usato is about to tell him his name, this stops him, because he has it on the tip of his tongue. Since his brother had told him a lot about him, he tells him that it was something related to being killed, or toasted, or something that had to do with a cat. But Usato, embarrassed, tells him that his name is Usato. She answers that her name is Ururu, and he is 18 years old. She asks him how old he is, and Usato answers that he is 17. This is Orga's little sister, and it is located in the Fleur Clinic. Usato asks him about Orga, and Ururu mentions that currently, you are caring for a patient, and he asks if he wants to see him perform. Then they watch him together as if they were spying. Because Orga loses concentration very easily, they observe that a small child is being healed, and the color that gives off its magic. It's a very vibrant one. His mana flows very easily, and it's nothing like his healing magic. When finishing with the child, Orga asks him if he is feeling better, and the little boy, happy, tells his mother that he no longer feels pain. The lady thanks him for curing her son, but he tells him that it's nothing. At that, the little boy asks him who those two are, and when they see them they leave with Usato. While they talk, Orga reads the letter sent by Rose, and he worries when he reads it carefully. Ururu tells Usato, who stopped training in the rescue team, because like his brother he is better at healing other people, instead of herself. But the main reason is because she was very worried about her brother. Listening to them, he feels sad, and put the letter in the envelope. He confesses that he felt a little bad, because upon joining, Rose seemed very excited to train them. The rescue team at that time was a newly created unit, and they were trying very hard. But it was useless because they couldn't handle the training, and they began to be afraid of the captain. She always looked very upset, although lately he seems very happy. And Usato thinks that's because he's using him as a punching bag to release the stress. That's when someone comes to the clinic asking for help, and he tells him that a friend fell off a roof while he was repairing it, and it fell on 2 people. Orga asks Usato if he wants to accompany them, and upon arriving at the scene, Usato observes that Orga was already about to drown from just run. Ururu tells him that it is always the same, and when they examine people, they realize that they must heal them immediately. Orga asks Usato to heal one, while his sister heals another. And as he does so, Usato thinks that so far, at that moment, he has only healed Orga and Inakami. But his injuries were not as serious as this person's. However, When the war begins, he will have to heal people with worse injuries than that. He is training, but remains nervous. And Orga tells him that he should calm down. No matter who you are and where you are, he has the power to heal whoever is in front of him. You just have to trust that you can do it. Usato remembers that Rose trusts him. And if she does, how can he not trust himself? When he calms down, he uses his magic and heals the man's wound. And later Orga thanks him for helping them. Yururu mentions that he did great. And Orga invites him to help them at the clinic when he has free time. Because it's a bit complicated for the two of them. Although that's because Orga doesn't have any stamina. Usato is happy and tells them that he will return another day. And Yururu tells his brother that he looked great giving that advice to Usato. But then Orga reveals that the letter sent by Rose was a warning to prepare for the war. Because the Dark Lord is approaching. And neither Usato nor her have combat experience. They can only trust their abilities. He's going to try as hard as he can. And Yururu worries when he knows that war is around the corner. But Orga reassures her because as long as they are together they will be fine. For his part, Usato buys some fruits from the old lady. And this one gives him some nappa. And as he walks back, the little girl from before takes him by the arm. And very seriously she tells him that he is the only one who can see him. A future that only he can change. The little girl uses her magic and shows him how horrible the war will be. Many soldiers dying in Rose, Inakami and Kazuki dying at the hands of the Black Knight. When he comes to, he is shocked to see such a carnage, and the little girl. He tells him that he left a great favor, and he must repay it in spades. He then runs off leaving Usato in a state of panic. Usato can't believe everything he saw in the vision, and runs after the girl. He has to ask the girl what she saw, but he can't find her, while she finds him. He watches from a window, and confesses that Usato is his only hope. A while later he asks one of the guards if he saw a fox girl, although the guard has no idea who he's talking about. She thinks that she shouldn't have gone too far, because she's just a girl, and Usato starts yelling that she was done. That little bitch, this sounded wrong. Although Rose appears and asks him why he is screaming, the guard panics when he sees her and leaves, running, while Usato mentions that he perfectly understands the fear he has of Rose. To which she grabs him by the head and asks him what he assumes he understands perfectly. Usato tells him that it is nothing and asks him where he was. To which the wild mom answers that she was on the outskirts of the kingdom, guarding the Dark Lord's army. He reveals that they were building a bridge to cross the river and invade them. What Usato is scared of. But Rose tells him that she destroyed it, and with that he bought some time. Usato tells him that he wouldn't call that surveillance. And as punishment Rose squeezes his head again. Upon returning to the rescue team's base, Usato mentions the fox girl, and Rose replies that she doesn't know much about her. Just that he appeared in the kingdom suddenly about 2 years ago. It surprised her a lot, because she didn't expect that a girl of about 12 years old would have eluded kidnappers and bandits alone. Usato asks why kidnappers, and Rose reveals that beast women are her favorite prey. Because in addition to being very beautiful, they have special magical abilities. Usato asks if they can have abilities like showing illusions to others. And Rose asks him what he means. He asks if they can show horrible illusions about some future. And Rose answers that among her species there are the oracles of time, who can see the future. These are extremely rare and are protected with great suspicion in their territory. He asks why so much interest, but Usato prefers not to tell him anything, and lie to him when he answers that he only read about them in a book. He thinks that the girl could be one of those oracles. But as they walk, Rose tells him that she is going to see the king and orders him to go to the house. A while later, he informs the king of everything that happened, and he thanks him for having saved some time. In addition to apologizing for having put her in a dangerous situation, they are aware that they must be building another bridge at that moment. But it will only be a few days that he managed to get. After that they will begin the invasion. Everyone feels worried, and King Lloyd tells him that they will make their announcement the next day, both to the army and to the citizens. He orders Sergio to make the preparations, and asks Siglis to call the heroes to inform them of the situation. While they are heading with the king, Kazuki and Nakami wonder why they were called so urgently. They think that surely the time to fight is approaching. That's when they run into Celia. And they try to show that they're not worried. Although this one seems to know the truth. And he tells them that their father is waiting for them. The boys continue on their way. And Inakami asks Kazuki if anything happened between Celia and him, because they looked very uncomfortable at that moment, although Kazuki replies that it's nothing. But before entering the royal hall, Kazuki looks very thoughtful. Moreover, at the rescue team base, Usato is not able to sleep, and not because of the snoring of this beast, but because he continues to think what he can do if what he saw turns out to be true. Remember that the little girl told him that only he could change the future, so only he could change what he saw. Although he feels that he is unable to do anything. Just then some lights appear in his window, and he gets scared thinking that they could be ghosts. He gets up to go examine, and notices that it is Kazuki. He meets with him, and tells him that he almost caused a cardiac arrest. To which Kazuki apologizes because he must get up early to train. Usato observes that he is very serious, and asks him what's wrong. To which Kazuki confesses that the king summoned them during the night, and he warned them that they would soon go to war with the Dark Lord's army. I was aware that that moment would come, so it doesn't surprise him. However, Inakami looked excited, but he is very worried. The very idea of going into combat doesn't let him fall asleep. That's why he left the castle to go see him. He practically fled. And he confesses to Usato that you are afraid of going to war. When they went to train fighting monsters, he was petrified with fear. He stood paralyzed before them, and after defeating them after a hard battle, he realized how naive I had been. The Dark Lord's army wants to kill them, and the thought terrifies him deeply. The people of that kingdom have been very kind to him, they support him and expect a lot from him, and that makes it even more painful. But Usato tells him that he is an incredible person, and confesses that he thought he was someone who he never doubted or was scared of anything. For some reason it was incredible. Kazuki asks him how something like this can be possible, but Usato understands that since everyone expects a lot from him, it causes him to come under a lot of pressure. But it is good to feel scary, and you can't meet everyone's expectations either. Sometimes it's good to think about yourself, and Kazuki asks him what he feels about all this, although Usato answers that he is going to save people and fight against the Dark Lord's army. He is also very afraid, but he already took a decision. Kazuki replies that he could die, and the worst thing is that he ended up in that world for accident. But even if it was an accident, a lot has happened since he arrived. It was very hard at first, but now he knows a lot of people and they accepted him even though he was superfluous. They helped us move forward, and now he wants to save those people, and that includes him, because although he wants to fight like a hero, remains his friend. Kazuki slaps each other to gain enough courage, and decides to fight to protect Inakami from him. He is sure that he is still too immature to be a true adventurer, but he plans to fight to protect to his friends. Usato tells him to relax and asks him if he is sure, but he says that if he will be on the battlefield, he cannot be less, he will face fear, and whatever it takes to protect his friends. Furthermore, having them by your side, he feels much more confident. In that case, Usato tells him that they will protect the people of that kingdom, although he later realizes that he is saying very corny things. Kazuki. He reveals that he is very happy to have met him, and Usato, embarrassed, tells him that he is a great guy. After that they say goodbye, but when he is about to leave and forget about that embarrassing scene, Inakami appears to rub him the demonstration of love between friends. Usato tells him with pity that he's tired and it's better to talk tomorrow, but she's disappointed, because she was expecting more of a reaction. Desperate, Usato imagines that he also noticed that Kazuki was very worried and that was why he continued, and Inakami confesses that it is just that, but it seems that he doesn't. Kazuki already took the decision. Although Usato confesses that he would prefer that he not fight. Inakami asks him if either wants her to fight, and Usato tells him that he obviously doesn't want to, but in her case, it's very different, because she decided to stay in that world. Inakami understands and says goodbye. Because the next day will be a very exhausting one. And the next day the king tells his army that the Dark Lord's army is on their border, and it will not take long for them to reach that place. They must intercept them in the prairies to expel them as they did 2 years ago. He is aware that they will attack them with much more force than before, and it will not be an easy battle. However, they are not the same as before, because now they have the summoned heroes, who will lend them their strength, in addition to having the rescue team that helped them so much in the last war, and once again, they will be on the battlefield healing the wounded. They will be worried, but he declares that Linger's kingdom will be victorious, because he has, with an army full of people who are not afraid of anything. They will leave the next day and leave, victorious in that battle. His speech increases the morale of the soldiers, and a while later, Kazuki heads to Celia's room and apologizes for coming to see her without warning, although she is happy because her Pinpoyo came to see her. Celia observes that he is prepared for the battle, and Kazuki tells him that he will leave the next day along with the rest. Celia tells him that we'll be praying for his victory, and Kazuki lets him know that he will protect the kingdom from the army of the Dark Lord, then says goodbye and calls him by name, causing the blonde to get wet at the listen to him and orders him to return safely, moreover to the team's base. Rescue. Yururu is delighted with Blue and asks Usato if she can pet him. He answers that he can, but it all depends on whether Blue allows himself to be petted. Yururu feels that she will carry. Very good, but Blue gives him a taste to stop him from messing around. Usato tells him that he is a shy bear, although Yururu does not give up, and he keeps trying. She wonders why he won't let her touch him, but Kurura gets on it, and she thinks it's to console her, although the rabbit also ignores it. The masochist continues trying, and Blue continues tapping her. Then Orga falls while lifting his luggage from the carriage, and Usato is going to help him. He notices that his sister is still a masochist, although she confesses that she is actually very nervous, since like Usato, for her it will also be her first battle, and he feels that he behaves like this to try to forget it. At that, Tom tells Usato that the boss is waiting for him in his room, and Usato asks him if he means her room. Tom answers which other room it could be, although Usato is surprised, because he had never asked her to go to his room before. He is afraid that he may want to torture him, and Tom tells him that even if that is the case, you just have to go see it quickly. When he arrives, he knocks on the door, and Rose orders him to enter, asks him what he needs, and Rose asks him if he remembers what his role was on the battlefield. Usato answers that he must heal the wounded on the front with her, and it tells him that it is just that, but it will not be like that at the beginning. Tom and the rest will take the wounded to the rear, where they will be healed along with Orga and Yururu, because there is no point in going to the front when there are no injuries. Also, on the front it is complete chaos, and they would be easy targets. Warns you that when you go to the front you have to be extremely careful. Be careful who heals. Usato asks him if he is telling him not to heal the enemy, but Rose tells him not to be such an idiot. It refers to not being clumsy as a healer. If there is a soldier with a minor injury in the field of battle and approaches to heal him, it would only hinder him. On the battlefield it is difficult. Discern between allies and enemies, so you must be very quick deciding who need and who doesn't. He hands him a box and orders him to open it, and as he does so, Usato observes that it is his uniform. Rose warns him that with it he will stand out on the battlefield, and orders him to try it on, because it's obviously for him. Usato gets excited and tries it on, and Rose tells him that it was worth toughing him up, because before it wouldn't have looked so good. He takes it by the clothes, and very seriously she tells him that healers are not immortal, and if he dies on the battlefield, it's over, and the worst thing you can do on the battlefield, it's not valuing your own life. Usato replies that he already knows that, because he doesn't want to die, although this one puts a zap, because it doesn't refer to that. Anyone would say that, but he knows many who died after saying that same thing, and others who regret it so much that they would like to die. You must take into account your own life. A rescue team member protects himself, and he is not allowed to do something stupid like sacrifice himself. or she herself will take care of killing him before the enemy does. Usato understands his words perfectly, and he answers that he will protect himself and everyone else. Rose asks him if he is sure, and Usato reminds her that she herself told him that he should get the idea. Proudly tells him not to forget. And when he leaves his room, he remembers the vision he had. But he doesn't care if it's a prophecy or not, because he is sure of what he should do. And he doesn't plan to let Kazuki Inukami die. Now we see that Linger's army has begun to mobilize. Yururu complains because they are still halfway to camp. And Tom explains that they should get as far away from the kingdom as possible, to avoid more victims in the war. Yururu understands, but that's all because of the demons. Usato asks Rose what demons are like, and she tells him that they are semi-humans with twisted horns on their heads. They have a human appearance, but possess more mana and terrifying physical strength. Even ordinary soldiers are very tough opponents. Usato understands that they are stronger than humans. Rouse asks him if he plans to chicken out. Usato responds that he knows someone who scares him more, so he is fine. Rouse tells him that he doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut, but to have been mistakenly caught in the summoning of the heroes. He ended up becoming a monster, although that is due to hellish training. Usato confesses that at first he just wanted to rub it in his face, and prepares to receive a whore, but notices that Rose only remains thoughtful, in which we see that she remembers her old squad, and touches the scar on her right eye. Now we go back 5 years in the past, when Rose was commander of the battalion of gentlemen. The king meets to inform them that they were informed of demons' sightings in the meadows near the darkness of Lingard, and there were not a few precisely. They haven't attacked anyone, but at any moment they can start seeing victims, so they will assign guards to the merchants who cross the grasslands. He warns them that the generals and high officials will give him the details, and reminds them that the demons are more stronger than humans, so they must avoid confrontations. At the end of the meeting, Siglis approaches Rose and asks her what she thinks about the stock taken by demons. She replies that she does not know exactly, but it is evident that it seems to be an invasion, although they do not have a large army. Siglis tells her that he will prepare his forces for deployment, but Rose tells him that it may be in vain, although that is what Siglis hopes, but it is better to be prepared in case the worst happens. When they separate, he thinks that it would be very good to send a scout, and one of his subordinates try to talk to her, although she ignores her because she is lost in her thoughts, although the girl gets very stupid. And Rose gives him a stay still, and asks him to shut up. Al tells him that he almost broke his head, and that he has a savage for a boss, although Rose is worth a damn, and keep walking. Al tells him that the issue of demons is something very serious, and I didn't expect them to appear like this, although for being a gossip. Rose gives him 3 more blows. Al asks him now what he did, and Rose responds that this is earned by spying on other people's conversations. He tells her that it's always the same with her, she doesn't know how to follow the rules, but they both wonder what they are doing. Plotting the demons. It's probably not good, but if necessary they will kick them back home. Buttocks. Rose responds that underestimating the enemy is a very serious mistake, and she is afraid of another. Scolding tells him that he was not underestimating them, because Rose has taken it upon herself to beat many of his ideas away. My dear Rose is a savage, and as a reward he tells him that he will be in charge of supervising the afternoon training. All Desperate tells him that it is not necessary. She is also very busy with the position of commander. But upon arriving at the base, the rest of the team asks Sub-Commander All, "Why is your face so pale?" But then Rose warns them that that day she will be in charge of supervising their training. Angry, they demand that he tell them what he screwed up, and this scared shit tells them that she didn't do anything at all. They just seem to be very relaxed lately. And you should consider it as a little gift from your beloved deputy commander, although that only earns him a beating from the boys. And while they kill each other, Rose just ignores them and goes into the house with them. Kururu. 1 week later. The king informs him that the demons seem to be attacking the monsters in his territory. According to witnesses, the soldiers are very well trained and coordinated. His attacks are very well calculated, so the king asks him to investigate his behavior, and if necessary, you are allowed to use force. Although he knows he won't do anything crazy. Rose thanks him for the trust, and tells him that she will completely fulfill her mission. At night he informs his group that their mission will be to patrol the darkness of Linger. They will leave the next day, and if you have any questions, it is best to ask them. One of the members asks her how many enemies await them, and Rose answers that between a few, 10 to 30. Another mentions that it can be very hard if things get bad, although all motivates them and warns that they should not underestimate the enemy. But the boys tell him that he better shut up and go reflect. But she doesn't give up. And it shows them that thanks to her they are now prepared. Although you only get a good beating. Rose tells Karura that on that occasion she must stay at home. Because it is a very dangerous mission. It would be very good to take it because it is capable of detecting monsters. But the demons could come after her, and she doesn't want her to be in danger. Owl takes refuge behind Rose and asks her to stop them. To which the boss warns them that it is a very important mission. On that occasion he plans to accompany them. Which causes the morale of her group to skyrocket because with her on the team no one will be able to stop them. Although Rose orders them to shut up and go get ready. The next day they set out and patrol the surroundings of the darkness of Linger. But at night they camp and mention that they found nothing. However, Commander Rose and Owl decided to go to the west side, the most dangerous area of the forest. That's why they left the horses in that place. Although one of the members mentions that it would be better to explore on horseback. However, Owl very seriously tells them that they will leave the horses because she feels that definitely in the west you will find something. The boys, seeing her seriousness, tell her that after all she is the deputy commander. And Owl tells them that they will sleep in turns. First they would go to rest. But in the blink of an eye they had already gone to sleep. Rose orders her to go to sleep too, because she will be in charge of the first watch. While the boys rest, Rose notices that All is unable to sleep and asks her if she doesn't want her to sleep. Help with that. He'll probably get another beating. And All asks her how she knew she was awake. But it's all thanks to the instinct of the wild mommy. My perfect woman. He sits with her at the campfire and asks her why he chose her to be deputy commander. You are aware that it is quite mediocre if you compare it with the rest. And there is nothing special. He trained them to be the best. But as deputy commander he only writes reports and requests equipment. It's more like the errand girl. Rose replies that someone has to do the job, and have not received any complaints. Or some blunder. So in her opinion she is more than qualified for the position. Owl mentions that he is doing everything he can, and Rose tells him that she may possibly convert her in the future commander. Currently she is the commander of the Knights, so she will not be able to lead that Knight Forever unit, and plans to leave that position to him one day. Although Owl desperately tells him to stay in charge, they will end up causing a mutiny, and they would give him one beating after another. Although Rose asks him who he takes his companions for. But Owl tells him that she will always be his commander. He also knows very well that she is very stubborn. And he doesn't obey orders he doesn't like. He stands with what he believes is right, although others oppose. And no one can control it. And if someone complains, he silences them using his own strength. Rose mentions that she earned a very good reputation. She was a very talented gentleman, but he did not obey his superiors. Until one day he met Rose. At that moment, Self felt true terror. He kept ignoring orders he didn't like. But common sense, violence and everything else, they were of no use to her. She gave him one beating after another if he didn't listen to her, and he would chase her if she tried to cross the border. If he tried to defend himself, he gave him a blow that made him lose his memory. And Rose tells him that she doesn't remember hitting her so hard. Although All responds that she is all a joker. He confesses that he did not want to let himself be overwhelmed by her. And no matter how hard the training was, I wanted to get through it and rub it in their faces. All because he hates losing. Rose replies that that is very true, and it didn't take long for her to take training seriously. Although it's not like it impressed her either. Owl mentions that she has never had anyone care about her without giving up. Everyone was fed up with her, but Rose continued there. It bothered her that he didn't see her, but it also made her happy, and feels that the rest of the unit feels the same. She is the one who understands them best, That is why she is the only one qualified to command them. Rose looks at her very seriously and gets up and gives her a healing zape. He tells her she's a spoiled brat who doesn't want to leave the nest. But O asks him how he can tell him that after giving him such a blow. He tells her that he thinks she understands them better than anyone. So how can you think that he would be able to leave his position to someone other than worthy? He didn't choose her as his commander just on a whim. He chose her because she never gives up when something gets into her head. Keep moving forward no matter the situation. And that is the attitude that instills confidence in those around her. If you continue doing the same thing as always, the rest will follow. And All asks if they will follow her of their own free will. Rose asks him if he really is so ignorant that he should explain with another blow. And All tells him that he can't know if he doesn't explain it to her. And Rose tells him that she's really looking for another zap so he understands. This desperate woman tells him no. And Rose explains that nothing is immutable and everything changes over time. You won't be able to move forward if you don't accept it. But no matter what happens, the fact that she was his boss will never change. Then he tells her that it is her turn to sleep and All is left in charge. Although before leaving he shouts to the rest to go to sleep too. The boys confess to All that they have their trust in her. And when she sees them she feels sad. And they tell them that they always listen to him when they know they should. Although All chases them to beat him up for telling him all that while they endure the laughter. The next day they continue patrolling Linger Forest. And as they go up the hill they see blood marks and claws from a glowwolf. They also notice fresh footprints in the area and confirm that the demons are hunting monsters. But they wonder what the point is of going hunting in human territory. It's all very strange, but All is sure they must have an ulterior motive. Just then they hear a roar in the distance and prepare in combat formation. As they approach, they observe that the demons are defeating the monsters and locking them in cages. One of the demons notices the presence of the boys. And Rose orders them not to leave their conduits for the moment. She comes out and asks the demon what they are doing in human territory. Everyone prepares for a possible attack. But the demon answers that he honestly doesn't care about that mission. But given how beneficial it will be in the future, it has to be fulfilled. Rose asks what mission he is referring to. But the demon asks if he really believes that will reveal that information. Rose tells him that it doesn't matter, and recommends that he delay it to avoid a conflict. The horny guy responds that she is very daring, although he notes that she has the ability to accomplish it. However, he doesn't plan on letting them live now that they've seen what they're doing. Rose tells All that she will be in charge of the team, because she can't give him orders while she deals with that demon. The boys prepare to attack them, and begin their fight. The demon uses wind magic to slice Rose, but she manages to dodge his attacks and strike him a blow. Although it does not cause damage because the demon covers his body with wind armor. Rose continually attacks and sends him flying with a kick, but she is also injured by the armor. He might have to leave the team with that, but he can't let the other demon go free. He dodges all of his attacks, but he runs away, and Rose starts throwing trees at him. Right and left. He takes a huge tree and nails it squarely. But the demon is released very easily. They continue fighting and mention that they have never seen a human with such strength, and tells him that he earned his respect. But Rose tells him that she will only be able to talk once she is done with him. Ends up surrounded by a storm of wind blades. But that's not enough to stop this woman. The demon is surprised to see that his magic is healing, and his enormous physical strength and speed plus his healing power. They make her a great fighter. He mentions that he is a monster, and he reveals that his name is Nero Argents. Asks him for his name, to which our wild mommy tells her. Nero reveals that he plans to kill her right there, although Rose replies that she is going to blow it up before I can do it, and these begin to fight seriously. The boys feel that the force of the demons, it's on another level, but they don't plan to lose. They work in groups to get rid of them and demonstrate the true power of Rose's drive, while the beautiful Rose note that the demonic sword is imbued with a curse, and she can't let him touch her. Nero cuts it with his wind, but Rose connects one blow after another. He asks if that's all he has, while he stands up surprised. Why didn't I expect a monster hunt to end like this? He personally trained his men, but they are in a sorry state. Congratulations, because they are very skilled, and they're the most troublesome group he's ever dealt with. The demon tells him that there are no heroes left among humans that were so powerful in yesteryear. Rose asks him if they think he can beat them, just because they don't have the heroes anymore. To which Nero replies that he thought so. But now he feels that she may be the biggest obstacle to his greatest desire, which is to end the era of demons subdued before humans. Your demon lord will awaken. And even though it's wild, Chloe has no mercy. He offers blessings and kindness to them. Nero is imbued with the curse of the demonic sword, for the triumph of his demon lord. And Rose is shocked to see what he is doing. They plan to destroy them completely, and end everything, even if they are reduced to dust. One of the girls pierces the chest of a demon. Pero este sacrifica para acabar con ella. Rose runs to his aid, but Nero blocks her path, and it becomes too late. Naruka leaves with San Pedro. The boys are surprised by their loss, but the demons are determined to die for the glory of their lord. Another of the boys is sent to heaven, while Rose's unit panics, seeing that demons don't mind dying for their goal. Rose is frustrated that she feels there won't be time to rescue them, while one begins to fall before the demons. Nero reveals that he ordered his men to die in combat so that he will focus on his battle with her, and Rose desperately jumps to the attack. But he lost his cool when he saw the fate of his subordinates, and Nero takes advantage of that to destroy his right eye with her sword, which makes it impossible for Rose to regenerate her wounds with her magic. Nero explains that his crimson sword passes through mana, so that wound is temporarily cursed and there is no magic or treatments that can heal her. The boys shout at him that they need his help, but he quickly sends them to the grave. Rose runs desperately, but Nero blocks her path and attacks her leg using his sword. He tells her that with her impaired vision she is not a worthy opponent, so she will not be able to fight like is due. He decides to end it once and for all, while Rose feels that her perception of distance is affected. And when he's about to step into the sky, all crosses his path, receiving the attack instead, and dying on the spot. Rose falls to her knees and is horrified to see the terrible sight of her subordinates dead, and remember that the boys were confident, because with her in the group there would be no one who could stop them. She blames herself because they fought trusting that their captain would be there to heal them, and they wouldn't die as long as she was by his side. All should have fled so as not to end up like this. And you feel guilty, because if I had been stronger, all would not have sacrificed himself. All because you trusted so much in your own strength. Moreau tells him that he will never forget the death of his men. Not even hers. But when he is about to unlive it, Rose takes the sword in her hands, and he grinds it with blows, while he yells at him that an unhappy man like him, he doesn't know what it means to appreciate the lives of his comrades. Like someone who sacrifices his own men. Can you know that meaning? Rose takes away his sword and prevents Nero from reacting in time, giving him a brutal beating to avenge his men. He throws him against a tree and stabs him, sword, and with unbridled anger advances towards him, because she must be the one who take charge of kill him. But then Amelia appears, much younger, and we see that she was Nero's disciple. He ordered her to stay at the rear, but she was unable to abandon him, while Rose, surprised, she wonders how a poor man who uses his subordinates as pawns has someone that wants to save him like her. Amelia takes the sword from him and tries to carry him, but Rose yells at her, "Let it stop." However, when he sees her, he sees Owl's desperate face and allows him to leave. March. He wonders what the hell that is all about, and just then he hears Owl's faint voice and crawls away, fast, towards her and desperately tries to heal her. However, Owl is aware that his wound, she cannot be healed, and tells her that it does not matter because she does not regret anything. It was very happy, fighting at his side as his subordinate. But Rose asks him to shut up and be silent, but Owl tells him. She says she is sure that others thought the same as her. Asks you to continue being the person whom they admire so much, and ends up dying in Rose's arms, while she feel anger, helplessness, anger and sadness at seeing his beloved subordinates in such a pitiful state. After a while, he returns to the capital and informs the king that the Dark Lord will resurrect in near future, and his intentions are to invade his kingdom. That's how Nero stated it, and it's probably why they're hunting monsters. At the end of his report, he asks the king to strip him of his title of commander of the cavalry. And Siglis is surprised to hear her say that. The king asks her if she is sure she wants that, but she tells him that she no longer has the right to do so. Feel like a gentleman and leave the royal hall. While he is walking down the street, some people approach him and tell him that they are Josh's parents. And they're glad I worked for her. Because previously your son was someone very problematic. But since he joined their team, he became very kind. Rose is sad to hear them and apologizes because her son died because of her. Although his parents thank her because thanks to her, their son became a better person. And she took his body back to the city so they could see it one last time. A while later, when he returns to the base, he sits in a corner and complains about everything occurred. And a month later, Siglis meets with her and asks if the king really came to visit her. Rose answers yes, and it was quite a surprise to see how the king went to see her without a single servant. Siglis mentions that he was very worried, because he had not left that place for a whole month, and asks if he convinced her to return to service. Although Rose replies that the king went for the same reason as him. Check that he had not gone to the grave after his unit. Although he confesses that he wouldn't mind dying, Siglis, very upset, takes her for her clothes. But Rose tells him, "Hey, calm down, old man. And don't come so close to me." He tells her that it was just a thought that went through his head. Siglis notices that the wounds caused by the cursed sword are already healing, and asks him why he doesn't make the effort to heal his right eye. Although this does not give you an answer. And a while later he leaves. While Rose in her room, he thinks that this scar reminds him that he let his companions die, and it is the punishment to never forget their deaths. Also, he doesn't plan to die, because owls saved his life, and he doesn't want it to be in vain. He wonders what he can do now, and he thinks if he should go kill as many demons as he can to get revenge. But reconsider and try to clarify your ideas. Then it calms down a little, and he imagines all the boys sitting at the table. I didn't expect to be someone so fragile. And she wonders what they would say if they saw her in such a sorry state. In that she imagines all telling her that they would make fun of her, and say something like, "She doesn't seem like the usual commander," and it reminds her of her own words, "Nothing is immutable. Everything changes and you will not be able to move forward if you do not accept that fact, and no matter what happens, she will always be your boss, so you don't have to think about it so much. That was the last thing I told you," he said, and asks him to also remember his last words. Must continue to be the same person they admired so much. In that, imagine the rest of the team motivating her to be the same savage commander as always, who would kill them if he saw them with their heads down, who does not get depressed by anything, and the one who ordered them train like animals. Rose begins to cry and realizes that she must accept their deaths, because his subordinates always advance fearlessly with a smile on their faces. Is allowed, cry and mention that this will be the last time he will be weak. He asks them to allow him to be weak for that last time, but he promises them that he will not give up again. After crying, he feels a little better, and he will become someone they can continue to admire. He already knows what to do. About a very tough battle against the demons, and they will send many soldiers to their death. But she will take care of it, to avoid that, and create a group that saves lives and doesn't let anyone die. But you need at least 5 people and at least 2 healers and someone like her. Someone who not only heals but can run across the battlefield and protect himself. He knows that a normal person couldn't do such a thing. But if I found someone like that, maybe I could fight by their side without dying. Returning to the present, Rose mentions to Usato that she is glad she found him, while he gets scared when he hears her say that. Rose asks him why he looks so surprised, although Usato didn't expect to hear her say that thing. She confesses that her existence is very important, and he doesn't know it. He tells him that he can't think that any healer could be like him, just for training, and asks you to imagine, what would it be like if all healers were like her? To which Usato responds that it would be the end of the world, and he gets a good punch in the stomach. Rose tells him that she means that it is impossible. She pushed herself to surpass her abilities. And it was based on training and constantly healing. And both are the only ones capable of being something like that. Usato understands her. And Rose confesses that he is everything you ever wanted in a healer. She can do things that only she could do. And she's sure she won't die. The whole group continues to move forward. And they are very close to reaching their destination. While the demons, for their part, they already have the complete bridge. And Vaginac is ready to fight. Amelia mentions that they are a little late. But they will be victorious in the war. At that point the Black Knight appears. And asks if he can lead the vanguard. Amelia allows it. And the Black Knight feels like it could be over in an instant. However, Amelia recommends that you not trust yourself. Don't doubt your strength. But among humans there are rescuers. And they are very tough. But the Black Knight does not worry about that. On the contrary, he wants strong opponents who will make you feel alive. The boys are finally on the battlefield. Everything is very calm before the chaos begins. Some eat and others rest. While Usato feels very anxious and is unable to continue sleeping. As she leaves the store, Inakami tells her that she looks great in her new uniform. It's the same one that Rose has, although she doesn't waste time showing off hers either. He tells her that she looks charming, and not only that, but her armor is also designed to amplify the power of your lightning magic. Inakami is very excited, while Usato feels very nervous seeing his strange dance. I didn't expect him to like armor more than cute things. Although Inakami tells him that in his old world he grew precious cacti to calm his heart. And I don't know about you, but at least I don't find beauty in that. Or well, it may be debatable. And Nakami orders him to calm his heart, and begins to bother him so that he loses his shame. And show him your cute side. But Usato runs away from this crazy woman and asks her to talk about it calmly. However, what this psychopath really wants is to get her hands on poor Usato. Luckily Kazuki arrives and asks him to stop because Commander Siglis is calling them. While Usato is glad that Kazuki has come to his rescue and asks him to please take that crazy girl away. When saying goodbye, Usato looks at the horizon and thinks that everything will turn out very well. And a while later Siglis warns Kazuki and Inakami that the Dark Lord's army will reach the grassland in half an hour and launch a collective magic attack as soon as appear. While they must launch themselves against the enemy, while the soldiers will open them paths so that they can reach the enemy commander and if possible kill him. A while later, while they wait for the arrival of the Dark Lord's army, Kazuki asks him if he is. He is fine, since he knows very well that he was bothering Usato so he could distract himself and lose a little nerves. Inakami responds that she has a very good eye, but although she feels a little nervous, she is also excited. Kazuki replies that he has changed a lot since they arrived in that world, and Inakami lets him know that the Inakami from the other world no longer exists, and despite everything, Usato accepts her as she is and how is it now? Kazuki was not aware of that conversation, and he asks him to tell him in great detail, to which Inakami promises to tell him. But once they return to the kingdom safely, but then they feel the presence of the Dark Lord's army. The wizards prepare to attack, and all together they launch several magical attacks. However, that was nothing more than a mirage, and they observe that the demons are approaching from the southwest. The boys move quickly, while Rose orders Aleph, Tom, Gomo, Milliger, that is, the black team, will begin to rescue everyone and take them to Orga and Yururu in the rear, while Haruka will be in charge of protecting them, but orders them to escape in case are in danger. He warns Usato that the two of them will enter the battlefield when things get complicated. But until then they will care for all the wounded who arrive at that place. Yurura asks Usato if he is worried about his friends, and he answers that it is very obvious, although she recommends that he take care of himself because he will also be on the battlefield. But in a matter of seconds, Tom arrives with 2 wounded, and the boys are surprised to see that the war has just begun, and they already have a lot of work to do. Rose makes it clear to them that this is war and they will not stop coming. The boys begin to heal, but Usato feels very nervous. While healing a soldier, he tells him in agony that there was a huge snake in the field battle. Usato wonders if it is the snake monster he faced in the darkness of Linger. For his part, the Black Knight observes in the distance. But he is disappointed because humans are too weak. However, at that point he is stabbed in the back by one of the soldiers. Unfortunately, the one who gets hurt is the soldier, and ends up falling dejected. He asks what the hell is he? While the Black Knight calmly removes the sword from his back, and tried to eliminate the soldier to prevent him from reporting his magic. Luckily, Alec arrives with his stinky water and rescues him. To which the Black Knight remembers that Amelia warned him about the kidnappers and, excited to feel that he can finally entertain himself, but he sees Rays in the field of battle and heads off in search of some fun. Gur brings another wounded soldier to the boys, and we see that they are very busy. Rose warns Usato that it is time for them to take action, and Usato responds that that's what he was training for. They tell Orga and Yurura that they will stay in charge of healing everyone. The boys wish him good luck, and before leaving, Rose orders Rooker to take good care of them. As they advance to the battlefield, Rose tells him that Alex informed her that a soldier told him about an enemy with black armor, and that his magic was very mysterious and very dangerous. Usato remembers his vision and stops to think, to which Rose gives him one last piece of advice before entering into that mess. He asks if he has gotten used to the idea of having to kill an enemy. However, Usato has only considered saving people, and if he ends up corralled, thinking that way, he will only end up as an idiot. But Rose teaches him a secret technique so he can get out of those situations unscathed, and orders him to go to the right while she will go to the left. In order to cover much more ground, Usato runs across the battlefield surprised and disgusted by so much slaughter. He observes a soldier in danger, and quickly saves him and avoids the axe blow of another demon, while Rose on her side heals too at the same time. Usato for his part heals two soldiers and orders them to go to the rear if they have not recovered after resting. Inakami for his party easily gets rid of the demons, and orders them to return to the rear to the soldiers wounded while the rest will continue advancing with her. It feels sad to see all the massacre, and Kazuki asks him if he is okay. It hides how it feels, and tells him everything is fine. They must continue advancing and defeat the enemy commander, in order to quickly end all that massacre. But just before moving forward, presents before them the Black Knight. The soldiers are terrified when they see him and feel his sinister aura. They have never seen a demon like that before, and Inakami orders them to stay alert. However, these idiots jump to the attack, piercing them with their spears. The boys, they ask if it had no effect or maybe he doesn't feel pain. But the Black Knight expels them, and then they end up affected by a strange magic. An annoyed Kazuki attacks him without thinking, but Inakami intervenes by deflecting his attack. Kazuki asks him why he stopped it, and this explains to him that he didn't. They must attack head-on without first knowing their magic. The Black Knight activates his magic, and we discover, which is capable of reflecting the attacks it receives, thanks to Kazuki's idiocy. Inakami achieves understand its magic. If that armor suffers damage, it will return to the one who inflicted it, the Knight. Black Man mentions to them that he did not expect them to discover him so quickly, and asks them not to are going to flee, because he wants to see them resist, struggle and fight before they die. In that Usato feel a severe headache, and the horrible visions come back to him. He wonders why it is unable to heal, and worries that something terrible happened to Kazuki Inakami. In that, a demon jumps to attack him, but he manages to avoid it. However, he trips and falls, and they almost sent it with St. Peter, but the soldier he saved before intervenes and prevents his death. Use it thanks him for saving him, and asks him if he knows where the heroes are. The soldier mentions that they should be in the center of the battlefront, and quickly he runs in the direction of the boys, praying that he can arrive in time. While on his side, Inakami devises a plan to attack him and avoid being affected by his reflection magic. He tells him the details to Kazuki, and he thinks it is a very risky plan. But Inakami warns him that in the worst-case scenario Usato will arrive to heal them. Kazuki tells him that he is someone so reckless. Like in the other world, but they get going and dodge the Black Knight's attack. They blind by creating a smoke screen and attack it in conjunction with surface attacks. But note that it can still reflect damage, regardless of whether you can see it or not, where it comes from. At that, Inakami observes that the wound caused to his back was not reflected, and asks Kazuki to try his plan again. The boys try again, and Kazuki blinds him with his light magic, while Inakami increases his speed so that, unable to see where the attack is coming from, and attacks him from behind, destroying the throat of the Black Knight, and now that he is unable to speak, it will be impossible for him to can activate his reflection magic. He tells Kazuki to attack him since it can work now, and it attacks directly. However, they both end up falling into their trap. Your desperate attempt to silence them did not work, because the Black Knight is able to reflect the damage to will, and did not heal the wound on their back on purpose so that they would fall into his trap. No. You need to say reflection for your magic to activate. They were both deluded to think that they could hurt him. They only ended up meeting their tragic end. And Inakami laments while that Usato runs desperately to save his friends, and that Inakami has I remember, from his other world, where he managed to change the school's rules, although it gives him the credit to Kazuki, as it was achieved thanks to the documents he prepared. However, he answers that everything was thanks to her because the teachers have high expectations about her, and they trust a lot. Hearing that didn't please Inakami. However, he endured. After that, watch the moment where Usato was desperate for being unable to get out because of the rain. She mentions that she feels lucky to have met him, and when they were transported to that world, I just thought it would be a version of herself. While Usato was completely different. He was clear about what he had to do to be able to adapt and live in that world. It was a ray of light and hope that made her very happy because he accepted her for who she really is, and not the version that is always forced to prove. He believed that whenever the boys were by his side, everything would be fine, but ended up falling before the Black Knight. The soldiers, upon seeing the fall of the heroes, feel demoralized, while the demons, for their side, are euphoric. Luckily, when they are about to send her to San Pedro, Usato comes to the rescue and gives him a healing blow that sends the Black Knight flying. But when he sees the boys, he feels terrified, thinking that he arrived too late. But he notices that Kazuki is still breathing and quickly begins to heal them. He is happy to see that Inakami wakes up, but the Black Knight is angry because Usato's bitch caused him a lot of pain. He asks who the hell is he? While she runs after him possessed and eager to kill him, Usato takes the boys and runs away while he heals him. While the soldiers cover them so I can heal them. Usato warns him that Kazuki should wake up soon, and Inakami tries to tell him something, but they are interrupted by the Black Knight. Usato is upset because he must continue healing the soldiers, but Inakami warns him that his attack against the Black Knight had an effect. He explains that his armor is made of mana, and any attack can return. Usato replies that that's like cheating. The detail is that his punch did work. Inakami asks him what kind of attack he made, but when he is about to tell him, the Black Knight interrupts them, and she lets him know that she will make him suffer for having hurt her. Usato thinks he would rather not fight, but he has no other choice. Inakami tells him to protect Kazuki, while he goes to face her, and run for it confidently, since although it can reflect its blows, he will be able to heal, although he notices that none of his attacks are returning. The Black Knight is surprised to see that he is not causing him any harm. But Usato doesn't waste time, and he lands one punch after another, while the Black Knight can't believe his blows are taking effect. She attacks him desperate and angry, but Usato blocks his attacks with great ease, while Inakami can't believe how strong Usato has become. Kazuki wakes up and Inakami mentions that thanks to Usato they are still alive, and now he's facing the Black Knight. At that, one of the Black Knight's attacks pierces Usato's hand. But instead of hurting him, it ends up destroying his armor. Inakami thinks he is incapable of causing her harm, since Usato is constantly healing. To which Kazuki tells him that he understands why he is constantly healing, But you could end up healing the enemy if you attack them that way. Which makes Inakami understand that healing magic. It is the weak point of the Black Knight, since he is unable to return the attacks. Because they are imbued with healing magic, the wounds caused heal immediately. So the damage you're taking, it is due to the brute force of Usato's blows. They are not leaving any wounds that can reflect, they just hurt enormously. He mentions that this is not how he is supposed to use healing magic. But hey, it's causing him harm. The Black Knight wonders how the hell he is causing him harm. And Wrath demonstrates her true strength by exponentially increasing the size of her sword. He tells the boys that they should not worry, because he plans to end everything right then and there. Usato doesn't care what type of magic he is using, because his mission remains same. Make sure you can't hurt anyone else. Both jump to the attack and clash their forces, causing a power collision. However, Usato does not plan to give in and ends up connecting him to a whore that completely heals the Black Knight's body, thus disappearing his own armor. All thanks to the ultimate healing punch. And a while later the soldiers, they thank him for saving them. Usato replies that that is his job as a member of the rescue team, but the soldier replies that that is not what he means. It's because, having defeated the Black Knight, all the other demons fled. Inakami tells him that it is very true, because if it were not for him, many would have died. Inakami orders the soldier, go to rest, and congratulate Usato for having excelled. He asks what that punch was about. Definitive healer, and he feels sorry, and tells him that it sounds strange, but it is something great, and asks him how he did it, but is then disappointed to discover that it is just a punch, imbued with healing magic. Rose taught it to him just before entering the battlefield. And we see how she told him that if he wants to take down an enemy, you just have to hit him with a punch imbued with healing magic. This is how it will heal when you hit it. And it won't end up killing him. It's just going to knock him out. They are not injured, but they feel the pain of the blow. And it feels great. Because this way it won't kill anyone. While Inakami thinks that every time looks more like Rose. However, his definitive healing punch, he ended up saving Kazuki Inakami from death. They thank him for saving him, although Usato replies that he was only doing what he had to. Furthermore, she is his dear companion, and Kazuki is his friend. Inakami is moved, but Kazuki interrupts them and warns her that the giant snake is mobilized to the front of the field. Inakami runs to go eliminate him, and Usato tries to join them, but Rose stops him and asks if it is true that the heroes were about to die. He demands that he tell him everything that happened in that place, and a scared Usato tells him everything. Rose understands that the Black Knight is the girl they have imprisoned, and she finds it incredible that he defeated her. Usato apologizes, although Rose tells him that he saved the heroes and took a hostage, thus managing to demoralize the enemy, and orders him to return to the camp, because the battlefield is under control. And if the demons don't use some secret weapon, everything will be fine. Plus, they would only get in the way if they are running around the field. Usato understands what he is telling him, and meets with the boys to let them know that he will return to camp with the captain. He asks them not to die, and they must crush the enemy and return safely. While the boys thank him and tell him that they do not plan to waste the life that saved them, Usato says goodbye and leaves, while Rose whispers to him that she is happy because he survived. Although when he asks her if she said anything, she replies that she didn't say anything and orders him rush. While Commander Emilia is shocked to discover that the Black Knight was captured, they inform her that she suffered a crushing defeat, and she cannot believe that they could overcome her magic. They tell him that he was defeated by someone who seemed to be one of what they call the rescue team. And Emilia, annoyed, asks him if it was Rose, but the demon warns her that it was a young man of black hair. She feels frustrated when she discovers that there is another one just like Rose, and orders Hyrule to return to Valjanak, because it is time to retire. He asks her if she is sure, to which Emilia replies that she should go fight. But the soldiers will not be able to protect the base. Furthermore, the enemy still has the Commander Siglis. Heroic responds that it is a shame that they do not have healers, so it will only be a lost battle of attrition. But when he is about to return to Vaginax, she is surprised to see that the heroes are in front of her. The boys prepare to eliminate it, because now it's their turn to prove themselves. The battlefield is now very calmer. The wounded are being healed and many are resting. Tom hands it to another soldier to Usato and tells him to stop slacking off. But Usato yells at him that he's not slacking off. While he heals it, everyone observes a flash of light in the sky, and we see that the little snake was left roasted. The soldiers are excited by their victory, and Rose warns Usato that everything is under control. The enemy has already begun to retreat, and Usato then asks him why they don't chase them, although Rose tells him not to be such an idiot, since demons are much more than them, and the ideal is to avoid more casualties, and prepare for the next attack. Usato asks her if she thinks they could attack them again, and Rose tells him that that is very probable. Gert arrives and asks Usato to help him with that soldier, but Rose warns him that she will take care of it, while Lozana mentions to Usato that they won that battle because he saved the heroes, although Usato responds that even if he had not appeared, he would have done. She and I would have given the same. But she answers that that is not the case. If not for him, the heroes, they would have died. He saved him and no one else, and they wouldn't have won so quickly if it weren't for him. Maybe they were losing. He was a worthy member of the rescue team, and we congratulate him on his excellent work, to which Usato remembers everything he has been experiencing since he arrived in that world, everything. What he has suffered and everything he has learned. He bursts into tears and wonders why he is crying. To which Rose tells him that she didn't know he could be so childish. Usato replies that it is because he is only 17 years old, and he confesses that he was very afraid on the battlefield. The demons were terrifying and he saw many people die, but he is glad to have met her and to have able to help people. Rose is surprised and moved to hear him, and tells him that once he met people who told him something very similar, but now they only exist in his memories. But he is there with her, and this time she tells him that she congratulates him for returning to her alive. Usato gets excited, but ends up fainting when he runs out of mana. He endured too much, and now it's time to rest. Now we see that Usato is reunited with Blue, and mentions that when they returned from the battlefield they made them run to the castle, because, according to the king, he was going to reward him, but when he arrived at the castle he was dying of nerves, being in front of so many people, and the wild mom gave him a quiet place to sit still. Will behave. Although this masochist ended up liking it, because in his old world they never gave him any prize. He looks at Blue better and notices that he is chubbier than before, although he tells him that he hasn't gained any weight. At that, Gomo arrives with Usato and tells him that they sent people from the castle to ask him to go. Until there. Usato asks him why, although Gomo orders him to hurry because it seemed to be something very urgent, and recommends that you be careful when passing through the town, but does not reveal the reason. Once he arrives in town, poor Usato feels uncomfortable, because many people are giving him gifts, and while Usato is surrounded by the crowd of people, we see the fox girl watching him from a distance. Upon arriving at the castle, he tells Haruka everything, although he is not surprised that the townspeople admire him so much. Haruka thanks him again, because it was he who saved the heroes and their companions, and if it weren't for him, possibly, the outcome of the war would have been different. Usato asks him to stop with that, because it was the knights who saved his life many times. And furthermore, he also protected the rescue team. Everyone worked as a team. And Haruka mentions that he is someone very interesting. And he responds that he wants to count on him if he needs a bodyguard. Haruka feels honored, to which Thomas congratulates Usato for his good eye, since Haruka is very skilled with the sword and magic, and he could even join the royal guard if that's what he wants. Haruka feels sorry, but Thomas tells him that it is very true, and he's someone you can trust. A while later, Usato meets with the king, and he apologizes for calling him so soon, but he asks him to lend him his strength again. Usato asks him what he is good for, to which Sigli explains that they need his help to interrogate the Black Knight. Usato remembers the girl, and asks her if she became violent during the interrogations, although actually it's quite the opposite. He doesn't seem to be very loyal to the Demon King's army. It answers all their questions, but it still doesn't tell them what they need to know most, and that's know the magic system of the enemy's high command officers and their powers. And the king reveals that the Black Knight will only cooperate if they comply with his demands. And that is seeing him. Usato is taken aback, and a while later they go down to the dungeon, where Inakami is hiding. Offers to accompany him to beat up the Black Knight in case he tries something. Although Usato tells him that he has collaborated a lot, and Inakami also received a beating before. This condemned man hits the nerve, and this condemned woman answers that it is true. And only he and Captain Rose could defeat her, but she will act as a human shield if it is necessary. While Usato wonders that he doesn't know how he was able to defeat her. To which Siglis responds that he has an affinity for dark magic. And it seems that his healing magic completely counteracted it, meaning that they cancel each other out. So he was practically nullifying the healing magic that Usato had in his fists. He is alarmed to discover that he beat the Black Knight without his healing magic, and worriedly asks Sigli if he received medical treatment, although he answers no, because he put his armor back on as soon as he recovered. Usato runs down desperate, and asks her if she is hurt. He took a beating from him, and not to brag, but he can break rocks with his fists. He understands that it must hurt a lot, and the Black Knight answers that he is right. But it doesn't matter, because that's what pain is. Inside the armor is suffering. And Inakami tells Usato that she is a masochist. Although he asks him not to get involved, he asks the Black Knight why he wanted to see him. And she responds that she wanted to see the face of the guy who left her so bad. Usato worries and feels guilty for leaving her in that state. And he asks Siglis to let him enter the cell, because he needs to help her. He opens her cell, and when Usato enters he asks for her hand. The Black Knight asks her if she wants to torture her, but angrily he orders him to shake his fucking hand. The Black Knight delivers it quickly, and Usato quickly begins to heal her, while she asks him what he thinks he is doing. Usato replies that it is very obvious, but she tells him that it is not necessary, although Usato lets her know that he wouldn't want to let her die. So she asks him to shut up and let her heal her, while the healer is feeling a pleasant sensation. And with fear he takes Usato's hand and mentions that it is very warm. When he finishes healing her, he asks if he can let go of her hand, but she tells him to allow him a little more time. While in that he takes out all his armor, and he answers that he had never felt anything like that. She asks him to let her stay like this a little longer. Usato is moved, and think about how he could say no when he looks at him with that little face. The next day, at the rescue group base, Rose tells Usato that he will train her personally that day. He doesn't want to be trained by that ogre again. But Rose reminds him that the Demon King's army will attack again, and you must learn a few things to be prepared. Usato would love to level up his magic, because it is currently incapable of treating diseases, among other things. Although getting to that point is not easy, and in his current state he can't do it. Rose warns him that his physical capabilities barely pass. So you have nothing to worry about. Usato then asks him what he will do, and the wild mommy prepares to give him a beating. Because now combat training is coming. He plans to hit him so fast that he won't be able to react, and he has to avoid them. Usato is scared shitless and asks him if he has any grudges. But Rose warns him that he depends too much on healing magic. He knows it because she trained him for it. But it's time to move to the next level. Usato panics and screams for help, while Rose explains that she is very confident that she can heal herself thanks to her magic. The detail is that healing magic does not work on wounds caused by weapons. Damn. So you must learn to dodge. He will start without much strength, because he is not a monster. But Zato yells at him that he cannot go through life hitting his subordinates, he is crazy in the head. To which she is upset. She is glad that he doesn't want her to hold back, and plans to give him a beating when you see that he wants to take the training seriously, while this poor man regrets opening his big mouth. Rose sends him flying and jumps at him quickly. And when I hit the ground I was already waiting for it. And with a single blow he knocks him out. When he wakes up he thinks it was all a dream, and he thinks he trained too much. He's glad he only dreamed of it. But then Rose warns him that it is time to continue. He warns him that he held back before because he is still alive. While he is terrified, he thanks her for not killing him. But he receives another one that sends him to cry in the valley. The next day he meets with the Black Knight. And he tells her everything that his psycho teacher has put him through. She asks if she doesn't think she's crazy, although the Black Knight asks him why he tells him all that. And if he wants something from her. To which Usato replies that the captain is busy. And he doesn't have training that day. That's why he thought it would be good to go see her. And see how it went. She answers that it is very obvious. Because what the hell could she be doing locked in that place? Usato asks him what he plans to do now. Although she responds that she is not in a position to decide what to do. Distressed, she tries to ask him something. But he stops and puts on his helmet while ordering him. Let him go. Usato listens to him and leaves. While on the other hand the king meets with Rose. And tells him that he would like to commission him to do some work. That's when we see Usato. And as he walks with his head down he remembers the moment where he defeated the Knight Black. While walking he observes Kazuki's training and how he manipulates some light balls. Greet Princess Celia and notice that Kazuki is working on improving his magic. She asked him not to demand. While Usato watches her and thinks that this is normal training. Compared to yours. That's when Kazuki notices his presence. And he mentions that Inakami told him that he made the prisoner cry. Usato replies that he only healed his wounds. Although he already knew it, and I just wanted to bother him. Celia tells him that Inakami said something about Usato activating some event with him. Black Knight. But he asks him to just ignore the crazy things that come out of that crazy woman. Celia tells him that despite everything, he got the Black Knight to give them the information they needed. And the king is very grateful and trusts him more and more. And if it weren't for him, the result of that battle would have been very different. Kazuki replies that it is very true. Because if it weren't for your help, he wouldn't be here anymore. Although then he realizes that he almost screwed up. Because he doesn't want Celia to discover that she almost died. And he tells him that he will continue training. After they say goodbye, Kazuki prepares to train, although Celia asks him to talk more. About what you mentioned. If Usato hadn't been there, how exactly would it have ended? Kazuki feels the real terror and asks for forgiveness, while Usato notices that he does not. He wanted to tell her nothing to avoid worrying her. As he advances he wonders what will become of the Black Knight. Now that she gave them the information, she doesn't think they're going to execute her or anything like that. While she wonders what Usato wants from her, and why he is going to visit her. But then he hears some footsteps, and thinks it may be Usato, but in reality it is Rose. He notices that she is wearing the same uniform as Usato, and assumes that she must be the captain. Rose tells him that it was by order of the king, and warns him that he has two options. The first is to spend your life rotting in that cell, but the Black Knight. He says to kill her if that's what he wants. Although Rose tells him not to be so impatient, and opens his cell, while he is. She is scared shitless. Rose mentions that the second option is a pain for her. Because she must become a profitable demon. The Black Knight asks him if he is an idiot. But Rose gives him a stay still to make him be serious. Note that healing magic is very effective against them. And he warns him that the king does not like having prisoners of war. He also knows that demons appreciate their companions. And if they kill her they might be furious. And enemies looking for revenge will be a pain. The Black Knight panics. And Rose takes the opportunity to place a necklace on him that seals his mana. She tries to take it away, but Rose explains to her that even if they could keep her locked up forever, it would be a waste of resources, so you might as well use it as a prophet demon. She asked him if he couldn't choose, but the king warned him that she would be in his power. Hands. This woman is going to die of a heart attack, but Rose is worth 3 cucumbers. Because he is not in a position to refuse, he knocks her out and takes her with him. While Usato makes blue runs so he can lose the kilos he gained, although Rose sends him flying with a kick. Because he ordered him to take that day off. Usato replies that it was no reason to mistreat him. But notice that it is carrying something. And she is surprised to see that she takes the Black Knight with her. She asks him why the hell he's taking her there. And Rose lets her know that she plans to reform her to make her the errand girl. Plus it will be a lot of fun to train a demon. And they don't have to worry because their magic is sealed. And she will personally supervise your training. Just like you did with him. Usato feels sorry for that poor soul. And when she wakes up she sees Usato, while he gives his condolences. At night Usato meets with Rose. And he tells her that the rookie initially complained. But he calmed down after a bath. He still doesn't understand the situation very well. But he will once he starts training. He tells Usato that he was talking to the king. And it is a topic that also concerns him. We see the conversation he had before with the king, where he revealed that he wanted to form alliances with other countries in order to deal with the Demon King's army. Their plan is to send representatives to several countries. And the representatives will be Mokami, Kazuki and Usato. He is surprised since he did not expect them to take it into account. Although Rose warns him that the king think it is ideal to fulfill that mission. And she agrees too. There is still no time for the game. But he must prepare, and the next day while he is in town, some girls encourage him to continue with your work. And the store guy apologizes for the excitement of the other day. The people of the kingdom are very kind, and the trip as a representative is to save all those people. While walking he bumps into Inakami. Is it that, or a plan of hers to run into him? He tells her that he activated an event with her too. While Usato begins to feel ashamed of Inakami. But then he notices the fox girl and runs quickly after her. He loads her quickly and tells her that they should talk. To which the girl responds that she had been waiting for him. Because now it's time for him to return the favor, and he asks Usato to save his mother. Usato is surprised by the news and everything feels very tense. Until Inakami arrives to ruin the atmosphere by getting excited about the fox girl. She decides to caress her. But returning to the serious topic, the girl ignores her and tells Usato that she only you can trust him for that task. Usato asks him what he means. While the misplaced Inakami gets angry because she is being ignored, Usato scolds her for being annoying. And he asks him if he doesn't know how to live without being the center of attention. While the little girl asks Painata to please put her down. Usato apologizes and puts her down. And the little girl introduces herself with the name Amako. Obviously, she is a beast girl. And very seriously she asks him to speak privately. And it is to be expected, having Inakami screwing up the moments of tension. On the other hand, the Black Knight is suffering from Rose's training. The boys easily overtake her, and Goma tells her that she is too slow to be a demon. Although this one tells them to go to hell because he is not an ogre or a goblin like them. Although the boys feel offended because they are human. She tells them that they are crazy, and ends up tripping and sticking her head into the ground. She decides to give up, and better wait to die lying there. But Rose wakes her up with a healing spank and orders her to keep running. For his part, Usato takes Mako to the rescue team's base, telling him that there they can speak calmly, since the rest of the team is training. And Nakami continues to long to touch his ears, and Usato asks Mako if he is. I'm sure he wants this crazy woman to be present. Mako replies that there is no problem. Because she is sure that the heroine will keep the secret, she knows them both very well and their magic too. Usato lets him know that he has many doubts, and asks him why he showed him the vision at that time. Occasion. And Nakami is surprised to realize it, while he reveals to Mako that he had to do it. Or else the heroes and the kingdom would have been lost. He reveals to them that his magic allows you to see the future. He had that vision a year ago, but he couldn't abandon the people who took care of her in that place, and even less losing him now that she found him. Usato understands that Mako was looking for a healer, and for that reason he left the Beastman's territory. And Nakami is aware that the Beastman's territory is very far from that place. But Mako had no choice. He needs to save his mother who is years old without even being able to open her eyes. For that reason he set out in search of a healer. He left his land because only humans are born with strange healing magic. However, there was no human willing to help her, until she met Usato. Although this strange man asks him why he didn't ask Orga Yururu for help in his clinic. Since he is sure that they would have helped him if he had explained to them. He explains to Mako that he can't take them because they can't fight. And he didn't talk to Rose because he's terrified of her. She also had a vision where she rejected her. Although Inakami understands her because Rose is a very important figure for the kingdom. That's why Usato was his best choice. As soon as she saw him, she knew he would accompany her. And he could tell that he was a very kind person. For that reason he showed him the future. And she asks him to please accompany her home and save her mother. Although Inakami mentions that it is a somewhat complicated request. Because now Usato is an important figure for the kingdom. However, Usato replies that he can do it. He mentions to Inakami if he knows about the representative's trip. And he lets him know that he plans to use that to get through Beastmen territory. He will ask the king if there is no problem. But first think about asking the wild mom. He asks Mako to wait for him a bit. And she recommends that she scream very loudly if Inakami starts to overdo it with her. Although after a while he explains to Rose that Amako is an oracle of time. And this warns you that it is a very serious issue. He will quickly notify the king because the oracles of time predict calamities. And they warn the beastmen. And one in your kingdom could cause a war with these. Usato understands the situation, and Rose orders him to wait for her until she returns from the castle. Upon entering the base, Amako understands that it will take a while before they can go. And Usato understands that he is capable of knowing everything he talked to Rose about. And Nakami begins with his melodrama. And Usato tells Mako that he is sure the king will think of something. He says goodbye to Mako and before leaving he thanks him. However, he is the one who thanks her. Because without his intervention Kazuki and Nakami would be at the gates of San Pedro. At night the savages fight for food. While the Black Knight feels nervous and hesitates to eat something. Alec asks him if he doesn't like the way he cooks. But she orders him to shut up. However, Usato recommends eating. Because if you don't you will end up fainting the next day from hunger. She asks him if that is the hell he must suffer from now on. And asks them to please put her back in prison. Usato gives him a gift that he bought for him at the market. And tells him that it is a diary so that he can write every day everything that makes him feel. He tells her that it makes everything a little easier, and she blushes and starts eating. From that moment on he began to use the diary. On his second day he ran until he couldn't take it anymore. But Rose sent her flying to Tangamandapio with a kick. On their fifth day, Usato accompanied them as they ran. And this one was like nothing. So she began to see him as an inhuman human. On the 10th day he heard noises coming from the forest, and he slipped away to go gossip about what was happening. Tried. Where she was shocked to discover that Usato was receiving beatings from Rose. But he got up as if nothing had happened while Rose scolded him because his job is to dodge. Not only receive the beatings. Although he yells at her that it is her fault for changing the trajectory of his attacks. They head at each other and challenge each other. Rose with her sadistic face tells him that she will punch him to death, while Usato responds that he won't be able to beat him, while the Black Knight watches in amazement the battle between these two. Usato finally manages to dodge one of his attacks, although he connects with a second that slams him against a tree. And you'd think Usato would wake up frustrated, but this masochist wakes up happy because he finally managed to dodge one of his attacks. She looks at him in shock and Rose sends him running again because he was able to avoid one of her attacks. Usato is a first-class masochist and Rose yells at the Black Knight that from now on, will train Usato. A while later he tells her that the captain is a monster, although he is the one who is turning into a monster. He tells her that it's a little late, but he wants to know her name. And me too, because calling her a Black Knight no longer fits me. I almost started calling her Juanita. She answers that it took a long time to ask him, and with shame he reveals that his name is Felm. Although almost no one calls her that. That's when Blue comes running, and it tells him that it is time to run all together. While this woman asks him if that's all. And angry she kicks him because he asked her name. And he thought I would say something else. And not only did he understand her, but this bastard ignores her and runs off with Blue. Felm goes over it quickly. And Usato recommends that you go easy or you will end up getting tired very quickly. But she orders him to shut up because she doesn't plan to let him win. Although then he ended up fainting. However, he healed her and now she is resting. while she is throwing 3,000 curses per second at him in his room. Rose orders to bring her food after eating, but the boys begin to bother him and ask him what kind of atrocities he is doing to the girl. Usato, with the face of a hitman, orders them to shut up, because he is more human than the captain, although the wild mom almost killed him with a spoon. So it's better to make peace and take a step back from their misdeeds. After a while, Rose tells Usato to go the next day to see the king and take Mako with him. Then we see that Felm is eavesdropping on the conversation, and discover that Usato will travel as a representative. The next day he sneaks out of the base and runs off with his luggage. While on their side, Usato and Mako are in the castle. When meeting with the king, he thanks Mako for having attended, and he kneels before her while thanking her with all his heart because without her help the king would not be in ruins. Let her know that you want to help her however you can. So he tells Usato that they planned the route of their trip taking into account his request. After visiting several nations, he will take the last letter to Mielark, the nation of water built on the banks of a huge river. Mako is surprised because on the opposite shore is the Beastman's territory. There he will take the opportunity to take Mako, and she is very excited. The king tells him that Wellesley will give him the rest of the details, and when he leaves the royal hall, Wellesley tells you that they will visit 4 different territories. The territory of Ludwig's magic, the nation of the Samario faith, the water nation Mielark, and in the end the territory of the Beastmen. Inakami, Kazuki and she will accompany him to Ludwig's. After that he will leave, together with Mako and the knights, to the next territory. Usato asks him how many knights are going to accompany him. Maybe if you explain that carrying too many is suspicious. So the ideal is to carry only 2. Usato asks Iruka to come with him, and this sad man tells him that he is someone very clumsy, can only protect one thing at a time. That's why it guards the entrance to the castle. Usato thinks he is not going to accompany him, but Iruka lets him know that the knights will guard the entrance for him, because he will be in charge of protecting Mako and Usato with his life. Wellesley asks him which other soldier he wants as an escort, and Usato asks him what if he goes with him to Blue. On the other hand, we see Fel running desperately, because Rose catches her and sends her flying with a kick. I didn't expect him to run away, and it seems he has spoiled her too much. He found out that Fel secretly overheard the conversation, and at first he thought he would go and warn the Demon King's army. But now he thinks the opposite, since it is very close to the base. Fel asks her if she isn't worried about Usato, since she will go very far, while Rose smiles and asks her if she is worried by the brat, but tells him to calm down because Usato is a healer forged in his style and, don't you? Nothing will happen. He asks her if she was thinking of hiding to chase him, but she gets angry, nervous and responds that she just couldn't stand living in those conditions. Rose says yes. She's tired, it's time to take her to that place. And Phil panics and asks where. Refers. But Rose gives him a stay still to start running. In the afternoon, Usato. He meets her, and she fills him in. He is surprised to think that he tried to escape, but Fel tells him that it is because he is going on a trip. Usato asks him if he will feel alone without him, and this sorry woman kicks him, and tries to hide what she feels by telling him that he is not fair. May only he escape from that hell. She continues kicking him, and Usato asks her not to, hurts him and calls her by name, which causes her to blush and take her head off tongue and then leaves angry. Rose tells Usato that leaving the next day is very sudden, although he responds that the sudden thing was having thrown him into the darkness by Linger. Rose warns him that this trip is very different and confesses that many people, he thinks that healing magic is inferior to the rest, so if you know someone who, tell him that he expects me to beat him up to teach him a lesson, because sometimes those who have prejudices have to be given a good beating to make them see reason. Mizuria tells him that he is aware that this trip will change him in one way or another, and confesses that she expects a lot from him. Usato becomes emotional when he realizes that his mother, Savage, has high expectations of him. And even though she is stubborn, he admires her as his teacher, and will continue to live in that world by his side and the rest of the people of the kingdom. The next day, Orga and Yurura wish him good luck, while Blue is angry because that they made him carry his luggage. Mako says goodbye to the lady who was taking care of her, and Usato tells her not to worry because he will be by her side. Celia says goodbye to the heroes, and when you reach the border, the boys embark on their journey towards a new adventure, where they will meet new characters and new villains. And we see that Rose takes Fell to Linger's darkness, and take the opportunity to see Usato in the distance, while he is excited about his new adventure. And here is the first season. We don't know if there will be a second, but I hope so. If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, activate that damn bell, and leave me a damn comment. I'm Enki, and I'll see you in the next video.